Well, thank you so much for joining us on Parliament Television today, the fifth day in the month of October 2022, to be on live commentaries. My name is Paul Ndovi.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Claudette Sindaza Jonga. And before we look at today's business, we'll have a look at business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Tuesday, 4th October 2022.
Madam Speaker did begin by making an announcement where she informed the House that in accordance with the provisions of the Standing Order number 165-5, she had reversed the following appointments. Committee on Cabinet Affairs, Mr. Oliver M. Amutike, MP's appointment to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, and reverted to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs. Claudette.
And Committee on Delegated Legislation, Mr. S. Lazo, Member of Parliament's appointment to the Committee on Cabinet Affairs and reverted to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. Thereafter, the House considered question for oral answer number 50, understanding order number 76, and the House considered questions for oral answer number 51 to 53, understanding order number 74.
There was a resumption of the consideration of the motion over supply. We know that the move of this motion is the Minister of Finance. He did move this motion last week on Friday, the 31st, last week Friday, that the House do resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the first year, January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2022.
And the House adjourned at 17:07 hours. Just now to join us as we look at today's order.
Well, thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. We should also make mention that on the desk for the interpretation, we do have the sign language interpreter, and this is Jason Manda. Will be joined up later by Chola Kauma. Let's quickly look at what is expected to be considered on the floor of the House. We do have questions for oral answer. Claudette, the details of the questions.
We have 3 questions for oral answer understanding order number 74. One of them is coming from Mr. Menyani Zulu of Nyimba. What's the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development? A question in 3 parts. When the construction of Fufwe Bridge in Chieftainess Mwapes Chiefdom in Nyimba district will commence, what the name of the contractor is, and the cost of the project is.
Question 54 will come from Isoka Lawmaker, and this is Ms. Nakaponda, and the question is directed to the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation. The area member of Parliament would like to find out whether the government has any plans to provide water to the following areas in Isoka parliamentary constituency, and these are Chui, Mwembe, Mwaiseni, Ntipo, and Sunset. The other part of the question, the area member of parliament would like to find out if so, when the plans will be implemented, if there are no such plans, why, and the D part of the question is whether the government has any plans to sink boreholes in the area at air.
And thereafter, we do expect Mr. Munia Zulu to move a motion. Wednesdays are set aside for private members' motions. And so the title of this particular motion is Abolish Position of District Commissioner. That this House urges the government to abolish the position of District Commissioner. So that's the motion that's going to be moved by the Member of Parliament, Mr. Munia Zulu.
Claudette, the last question that is expected to be considered on the floor of the House is question 56, that will come from Mr. Simuzingili, who is a Gwembe Member of Parliament, and it is directed to the Minister of Justice. I'd like to find out when the government will procure furniture for Chipepo local court in Gwembe district, what the cost of the furniture is, and when the local court will be opened to the general public.
And of course, we'll have a resumption of debate on the motion of supply, a motion that was moved by Mr. Jamba of Mwembeshi and seconded by Ron MP, Mr. Chibuye. We do expect more members of parliament to debate this particular motion as long as they indicate. So that's what is expected to be transacted on the floor of the House today. this afternoon and part of the day.
So we're talking over three questions for oral answer, understanding order 74. For now, we'll cross over to the floor of the House. As you can see on your screens, that's the Speaker's procession making way to the chamber. Have a good afternoon.
Honorable members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Sentencing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We won freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those good men. Let us, all our people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters such shall come under our deliberation in so just and effective a manner as to promote your honor and your glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our church. Amen. Questions for oral answer, understanding order 74. The Honorable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according the people of Visoka to ask a question. Question number 54.
The Honorable Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Isoka asked the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation as follows: whether government has any plans to provide water to the following areas in the Isoka parliamentary constituency. 1, Chui; 2, Mwembe; 3, Mwaiseni; 4, Ntipo; and 5, Sunset. Under B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. C, if there are no plans, why? And D, whether the government has any plans to sink boreholes in the areas as mentioned under A. Mr. Speaker, our response is as follows. That A, yes, government has plans to supply water to Chui, Mwembe, Mwaiseni, Ntipo, and Sunset areas in the Isoka parliamentary constituency. B, the implementation of these plans has already begun in 2 areas, namely Ntipo and Mwaiseni, while implementation in the other 3 areas of Chui, Mwembe, and Sunset will be undertaken in due course. Under C, as stated under A, government has plans in place to supply water in the above mentioned areas. And D, government has plans to sink boreholes in Mwaiseni and in Tipo areas. While in Chui, Mwembe, and Sunset, government has plans to extend the water supply network from the Chambeshi Water Supply and Sanitation Company network. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Mr. Speaker, I think I should be asking the next question 55. I haven't indicated yet, although I want to speak, but I haven't indicated yet. But just in case...
The Honorable Member for Petauke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Petauke this opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Minister of Water Development. The Minister, how far have you gone with the process of drilling these boreholes in Isoka? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to thank the Member of Parliament for Petauke for that supplementary question. Mr. Speaker, I've indicated that in Mwaiseni area, I've indicated rather that in the other 2 areas, we have started the implementation of our plans to drill boreholes, and those have been undertaken. But in the other 3 areas, the activities will be done in due course. What this means is that I'm hoping that these other works should be done before the end of the last quarter of 2022. I'm hoping that by close of 31st December, these works will have been completed, including in the other places. All these areas I've talked about, Mr. Speaker, in Isoka. So the Chui, Mwembe, Mwaiseni, Ntipo, and Sunset. So the other 3 areas will be worked on before the close of 31st December. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member of Luasenshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry for delay because of this technology. Honorable Minister of Water and Sanitation, I followed you when you were responding to the good questions that Honorable Member for Isoka asked. My question is, do you have intention to visit Isoka so that you can able to appreciate how these works are being done and how much time can you really confirm to this honorable house so that the good people of Isoka can be really assured and at how much are we executing these works in terms of improving water creation in Isoka district? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also want to thank my brother for that question. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you yourself knows how much in love I am with the people of Isoka. And given the opportunity, I would have loved to go there the soonest, like tomorrow. But owing to other commitments, Mr. Speaker, this might not happen this week or next week, but I want to assure the Honorable Member of Parliament that, yes, I'll be coming to Isoka to see how these works are progressing. In fact, I have a program to go to Chinsali pretty soon, so my intentions will be to combine, to go to Chinsali and then extend to go to Isoka. So be assured that I'll be able to visit and see how these works are progressing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kasenengwa.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I think my question has been overtaken by events. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Momba.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to ask a question. Honorable Minister, you have indicated that the drilling of bores is currently taking place in 2 areas. Now, my question is, on average, what is the cost of drilling a borehole just in those 2 areas? What is the cost? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to thank my brother, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Momba, for that question. Mr. Speaker, I don't have the actual figures in terms of the cost per borehole for this particular work, but let me promise, Mr. Speaker, that I'll be able to provide this information as soon as possible to the concerned member, but again, by extension, to the Member of Parliament for Isoka. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Isoka, Honourable Nakaponda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for loving the people of Isoka. But what I would like to tell you is the people of Chui village, that's where the source of water starts, and they are the ones who don't have water. So they are worried. I would like to urge you to make sure that you start the drilling of water in Chui village. Thank you.
I think that was just a statement. The Honourable Member for Solwezi East. Honorable member, for the mics to work, you have to log in.
Come here, doctor. Come here. Just use that. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, you have indicated that the said bores, you are in plan of drilling them. Just want to find out if you are going to just have them drilled and set the hand pumps, or are we moving to the modern world where you can have solar panels, tank stands, and the tanks, so that the community to be serviced with these bores can actually have flushable toilets and so on. Just want to find out if you have those plans. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permit me to start by responding to the comment by the Member of Parliament for Isoka regarding Chui area. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the Member of Parliament that in Chui, actually the utility company, Chambeshi Water Supply and Sanitation Company, has actually prepared the BOQs for the extension of the services, and these BOQs have since been submitted to the ministry as a proposal for possible funding. So I take note of your comment. As regards the question from my brother, the Member of Parliament for Solwezi East, for this particular project in Isoka, it's a hybrid system, like I've said. We intend to extend the network to cater for the other areas I talked about, where, as in the other areas, we are going to drill the boreholes and equip them with hand pumps. So I know that the idea behind that question is for me to address the plans we have, not only in Isoka, but beyond Isoka. And I want to assure Mr. Speaker, the Member of Parliament for Solwezi East, that I'll be coming up with a ministerial statement pretty soon, before the end of next week, to update this August House in terms of what plans we have for boreholes and also piped water schemes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chivu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister of Water, how many boreholes do you intend to give the people of Isoka, and particularly to the highly affected people of Chui? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation. You may not have maybe the answer off the cuff. Maybe you require some time to write to the minister, to the Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, like I said earlier, I'll be issuing a ministerial statement which will indicate how many boreholes we are allocating to each province and subsequently to each district. So through that ministerial statement, we'll be able to tell you what we are giving the people of Isoka. But as regards to the question I'm responding to, in Maiseni area, Mr. Honorable Speaker, we have 3 existing boreholes and a water kiosk which we are providing in Maiseni area. But in terms of what we are giving the people of Isoka and the other districts under the 2022 fiscal year, I will be able to indicate in the ministerial statement within the course of next week. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you, Minister, for that statement. Isoka is a rural constituency. What immediate measures are you taking to ensure that those areas which become inaccessible during the rain season, the boreholes are drilled as quickly as possible before the onset of the rain season? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to thank my brother, Honorable Mtara Charo, for that question. Honorable Speaker, we have urgent plans to ensure that the allocated boreholes in various districts are drilled as quickly as possible before the onset of the rains. I'm mindful, Honorable Speaker, that certain places are basically not reachable during the rain season, so this has to be done as quickly as possible. But I want to emphasize that actually this is the right time around October and November to drill boreholes, because then we are given a much more reflective situation on the ground when the water table is quite low. So this is the right time to drill the boreholes, and be assured that most of these works I'm promising here, and the ones which will be covered in the ministerial statement, will be done hopefully before January, before it starts raining very heavily. So we hope to work around this month of October, November, and into December. Most of the works will have been done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let's make progress. Next question, the Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the people of Nyimba asking question number 52. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. 55.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Menyani Zulu, the Honorable MP for Nyimba, is asking the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development at A, when the construction of Vuvie Bridge in Chieftainess Mwape Chiefdom in Nyimba district will commence. At B, what the name of the contractor is, and finally at C, what the total cost of the project. Mr. Speaker, in response to the question number 558, at A, the construction of Vuvie Bridge in Chiefness Mwape's chiefdom in Nyimba district will resume once funds that are required for the works to continue have been secured. At B, the contractor engaged on the project was Mr. Anhui Shuanhan Construction Limited, and a new contractor to complete the outstanding work will be engaged as soon as funds are secured. At C, the total project cost was 74,520,324.20 ngwe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa sympathize with the people of Nyimba, and I wish to ask the Minister a follow-up question regarding this huge amount of money that is required for works to resume. When do you anticipate a work plan could capture this provision? Are we looking at next year? Do you feel it can be done in 2023? I'm asking because the Member of Parliament who has raised this question obviously requires to give feedback to the community as to when these works would commence. Which work plan will accommodate this huge sum of money to complete the works? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa, for that question. It is the desire of this government. It is the desire of this government to conclude all these works that we took over from the past administration. We are extremely desirous, Honorable Member of Parliament. The complication that we have is, as we have said before, supplementary information that you may want to have is that this company produced IPC certificate to a tune of 11.7 million kwacha. 11.7 million kwacha, out of which 4 million kwacha has been paid to this company. This particular project was nowhere in the work plan of the previous administration. It was one of those works that was just a TNT Ambeko. Let's just start without a budgetary provision. I've said this time and time again, that this government shall and will operate based on the appropriated money. So this predicament, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa, was created by your former political party called PF. They are the ones who contracted this, knowing very well there was not sufficient money in the treasury to fulfill this. This is a problem that we inherited. And we are not magicians. And sorry as we may feel for the people of Nyimba, we will definitely come around these problems that we found. There was over procurement. This is a road that falls in exactly that category, where it was like a chimbui no plan, which means a hyena without a plan. Let's just start doing work even when there's no money that has been allocated for that particular assignment. We would like to complete, I want to repeat, all works that were commenced by PF, including the constituency that I represent. I've not done an inch of the road work that they left because they had over procured. It is the job of your colleague, your brother, the MP for Nyimba, to go back and explain to the people that he represents in no uncertain terms where this problem truly lies. And we will not beat around the bush. We will not skate around the problem. The problem is truly there. There was over procurement of works for expediency, to look good. And this particular state of affairs, I want to confirm to you, brother and friend, we found it after 12 August 2021. They have not finished paying. We still have to look at how to pay the balance of 7 million kwacha to this same contractor who has since left the site. It is a predicament. And the earlier we all agree that we are in this together, the better. And no one must attempt to outshine anyone here for the malaise that was left by PF. Think the malaise, yes. That's an English word. The awkwardness that was left by our predecessors sitting on the right-hand side of you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chifuvu.
Honorable Minister, the House has heard that there is a 700 plus something million that is owed to the contractor. Is this amount of money attracting any interest? And are there any legal implications around it? that a government may suffer as a result of the inadequacies of the former regime.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chifubu. Any commercial transaction has got an interest component on default. Any commercial transaction has got an interest component or even penalties on default. I want to confirm to you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chifubu, this is how deep the malaise we found as we took office. But let me give you some comfort. To give you some comfort, some of these contracts were tailored in such a way that default easily happens and someone cashes in for that particular default. Because how else can you explain a situation where you contract someone when you know very well you don't have the money to pay? It is because you are anticipating default. When that default happens, it means someone is cashing in for just sitting at home. That is what used to happen. The comfort I want to give you, sir, is that we have started the engagement of all these contractors, some of whom were actually counterfeit contractors. And we are discovering this as we go along the way. We are calling them one by one to ask them if going to court, to litigation, is the best way to go, or can we sit and discuss so that we can settle these things. As a new dawn government, we think that it's a much more feasible, it's a much more civil way to sit and discuss, because even the contractors themselves, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chifubu, are in trouble. Some of them have lost property because they entered these contracts with an understanding that they'd go to the bank, borrow money, which money was not to be paid by the people who contracted them. They have come to say the bank wants to grab my house. So what do you do in the meantime? They are our citizens. We sit to them to ask them, do you want to play hardball? Meaning you want to take us to court? Go ahead, take us to court. The court may rule in your favor. It may take us 20 years to liquidate your loan. Or can we sit and discuss and find an amicable way of dealing with this malaise which was left by our colleagues? That is the answer I have for you, brother and friend. We are up to the task. We are those who are willing, and maybe I should use this platform, those who are willing and know that they were contracted under extremely inflated contracts, where a kilometer of gravel road was costing so much money in colossal sums. To be realistic and come to the table and say, time now to normalize things has come. Can we sit down and discuss so that you get a cost-reflective service for these things that they were doing with our colleagues on the right-hand side? Thank you.
Thank you. There's a point of order. The Honorable Member for Papashe.
Mr. Speaker, our standing order 65 states very clear. We must give clear information that are corrective and reflective. The Member of Parliament for Chifu did raise a question to the Minister stating 700 million. And the Minister has agreed to that. When the Minister in his answer said 7 million, and this record, if not corrected, will go and answered 10 years from now, 20 years from now, other members of Parliament will come after us, they will check. Is therefore this misleading information provided in this House in order, Mr. Speaker, to stay on the record of your Parliament, if not dispatched? I seek your serious guidance.
I think, Honorable Member, the Minister, should I say the Member of Parliament, based his point on what was said on the floor of the House. And I don't have information or any record to rule otherwise. So that is my ruling. The Honorable Member for Kamwala.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. Through you to the Minister. Honorable Minister, may I know if the late mentioned as a balance towards the completion of the work still stands, looking at the current exchange rate which is applicable at the moment. I thank you.
I have no information that suggests otherwise. What is outstanding for the benefit of the point of order and the listeners that was raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Pambashe, the balance that is owed is as follows, Mr. Speaker. It is 7,790,674.32 kwacha. There is what is called a slip of the tongue, or probably my colleague from Chifubu had not heard me right. But obviously, there's requirement to put the record as it ought to be. The amount that is owing is 7 million. I have no information that suggests that. Because of the exchange rate, because of the interest, the contractor may claim more money than what I've read out today. But I think what I said in my previous answer provides a pathway of how we intend to solve this problem. To sit down with contractors and have a warm chat with them and explain why we think if they froze interest, for instance, their loan would be, their outstanding would be liquidated faster. And those are things that we have to use in management in order to get things right. Because if we leave the interest to continue going up, we'll get to a point where we'll perpetually be a government that owes people, owing to the problem that was left by colleagues, our S12 brothers from Patriotic Front. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, let me just say this. One, we are having a balance of 7 million. We paid the contractor 4 million. And what is on the site does not add up. I don't know why we should even be paying this contractor the 7 million in the first place. I'm saddened, Mr. Speaker, that the project at Mvuvye River was not in the national plan. So meaning, even today, is still not in the national plan. My question to the minister is it possible, is there any possibilities that for us to construct this bridge, we need to put it in the plan? Are we seeing the bridge coming to the plan either 2023, which I know basically it's not possible because the budget is already out? Are we seeing this bridge coming in the national plan by 2024 or 2025? Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, in answering my colleague, it gives me a reminder of a question that I answered not so long ago from my sister there from Katete, Milanzi constituency, where she wanted to find out when government was going to repair these roads and whether the road plan has included those roads. I want to put it to my colleague, through you, Mr. Speaker, that this annual plan is developed under a devolved system. Here where I'm sitting in Lusaka, I have not even been to Vumvuye River. I don't know it. So at the point when we were getting raw data from all the councils, the constituencies, on what road we should include in our 10-year road sector development plan, I put it to you that if I flipped the coin, the MP really should be the one providing this information. If that road was put by their technocrats, the town clerk or the council secretary, because the information that we've been working on to develop our plan came from the local jurisdictions. So I could never answer this question now, but I can promise to go and check whether or not this road and bridge were placed under the current 10-year road sector development plan that we have. Further, Mr. Speaker, It was not long ago when the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama South is there, is sitting there, smiling at me. Chama North, I beg your pardon. And a few others, I think those who have benefited from the crossing points know themselves. Early during a time when we took over office, the Minister of Finance indicated to me that please announce those who have critical crossing points that are threatening cutoff. They must provide the bills of quantities for those particular points so that we can attend to them under the ad hoc means of sorting out this problem. We've sorted out Chama North. Is there. Is a living testimony of what we have done. So my encouragement to you, brother and friend, is that if Mvuvye Bridge is not on the plan, it is incumbent upon you as a good representative to bring that to me, who is sitting in the office of the Minister of Infrastructure, to help our people, yours and mine. But to just come here and say, have you done this? It may not help us. We need raw data from yourselves. And further, I feel your pain when you say in your question, when you see the amount of money that was paid, 4 million, against what is on the ground, your own feeling is that it is not tying up. That's what used to happen, brother. Nothing is tying up. But we need your hands to tie these things up together, you and us, to make sure that going forward, people are going to be paid money that is coming out of honesty work. Sir, we have several IPCs called the interim payment certificate, especially in gravel roads that are not perennial, where you could not argue that there was a grader that passed here or no grader that passed there. It was used as a cash cow. People were getting money, down payment of in excess of 4 million kwacha, and no work has been done. These are the people that I insist that continue coughing blood. Sooner rather than later, you will be summoned to the Drug Enforcement Commission to go and explain, one, where you took the money when there's no work that was done. As you give me the example, Honorable Member, that Vuvye Bridge and what you see with your naked eyes cannot translate into the 4 million kwacha that has already been paid. To add salt to injury, I've already said, there's 7.9 million kwacha that we are still yet to pay for the work you say has not been done. So what's going on here? There was a fraud that was going on. Let us all just accept that there was a fraud, that there was a laissez-faire attitude of people who got free money and went and bought houses, used those houses to go and use them as collateral at banks, hoping that PF would continue eternally. Now, as God operates, President Mario Tola is an equalizer. He dislocated the pillar of PF. And now your questions, let me put it to you, brother and friend. Your questions that you ask us provide a platform for us to expose these ills more and more. And I want you to know, in my ministry, I have a dossier. In my ministry,
Order.
Mr. Speaker,
Order.
in my ministry,
Order.
I have a dossier. I want to say this in no uncertain terms so that we are all clear about what I'm saying. I have a dossier of PF members who were clients of the ministry who got money and never paid. And I'm saying this in no uncertain terms. There are a few who did work. I must be honest. There are a few genuine contractors. Some of them are here in this house. There are also a number of contractors, pseudo-contractors, who got money. No, they are genuine contractors, but I would need to get permission from them to mention their names. But for now, they are contractors of even international acclaim. Among these PF, one or two, they are there. Some just jumped onto the bandwagon because down that road is where the free money was. But everything that goes up must come down. We shall soon reach the point of reckoning very, very soon. And we are encouraging you to ask us such type of questions as much as you can, so that we can continue to bring the country the information that they so desire, that would never have come out during the time of PF. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. There's a point of order. The honorable member for Kawambwa Central. Honorable member, you should indicate so that I'm able to see you, than just standing there shouting point of order, point of order. Let's observe order in this house. Let's observe order. For me to be able to recognize you, you must indicate, not just shouting point of order, no. You can go ahead. You can go ahead, honorable member for Kawambwa.
No, Mr. Speaker, I will not go ahead.
Okay, it's okay. Honorable member for Mpampasha. There's another point of order.
Mr. Speaker, is the Honorable Minister of Local Government, Acting Minister of Infrastructure, in order to apportion blame to PF members seated as contractors when in the row is sitting. There are contractors who are ministers who are working in Muchinga province, and they know themselves. And those that were working in Eastern province in Fida Road, and those that designed Lusaka, the roads here. He keeps on pointing fingers on PF members when I can see a lot of ministers there were contractors. I can point at them. Is he in order? Some of them worked in Muchinga subcontractors. I know them. And sitting next to you, minister. Is he in order to bring the subject of debating fellow ministers and members of parliament here? I seek your serious ruling, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Order. Our rules for the House says that we should not debate ourselves. Order, honorable member, if you want to interact with your friend, I think the door is there, you can chat outside. Let's progress. Honorable member for Chama South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, through you, I have to state that Honorable Garin Kombo is among those who are very practical, extremely practical. Continue on that trajectory, Honorable. What I want to find out, a number of us did not submit critical crossing points.
Honorable member, yes. Let's restrict our debate to the question at hand.
Yes, that's what I'm about to ask, Honorable Speaker. In his response, you have indicated that you had requested a number of members of parliament to submit critical crossing points, such as the Mvue. I know this river too well. As you are entering Chieftainess Mwape's palace, you have to cross this river in Inyemba. We didn't do that, Honorable Minister, because we are working on the assumption that they are still running contracts on a number of these crossing points, including the one that you had indicated for Chama North. I think there was a contractor on that site, contracts which have not been terminated. Are you confirming, looking at the situation that you have just explained, that there is still need for us, because a lot of our people, Honorable Speaker, during rain season are cut off. There is still need for us to specifically talk to our councils to submit these critical crossing points so that we do so, including this Mvuye crossing point, Honorable Speaker. I submit.
Thank you. I think the Honorable Minister indicated that he announced on the floor that those that were willing can submit the BOQs so that they look at them. I think the window, according to the Minister, was quite indicative that the window is still open, though subjected to financial constraints that we are currently facing. But the submissions, I think, indicated that you can still submit, Honorable Member. Next, Honorable Member for Lunte.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Honorable Minister,
when you are responding to a follow-up question from my honorable colleague from Kamfinsa, you indicated that his former party, PF, left the UPND in that malaise. And just to clarify that PF is still the party which Honorable Kangombe belongs to. But my substantive question to you is, could you kindly state the name of the PF member who signed that contract and indicate whether that PF member is still working in the UPND government? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think I've ruled already that let's desist from debating ourselves. I think if there was a question to be asked, it should have been within the context of the question 55. So going forward, let's avoid debating each other in this house. I think that was my ruling. Thank you. Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the said contract, we didn't submit it because we knew that there was a contract pending, and it was not among the ones we submitted. I think I've gotten your answers, Minister. The only thing is that I think the most critical ones we have submitted, there are two and very important. We can't choke you. Next year we'll also submit two. We need your effort to see to it the most critical crossing points we have in Nyimba, one to the hospital and the other one in Chimpanje, are done this year. I hope the Minister of Finance, since he's here, is listening. He will assist us. Thank you. That's all.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure.
This is the reason why we are here in government. Until the Zambians decide that they want to make changes, we are here in order to address the problems that are facing our people. Before I make a clear response, I want to apologize to Honorable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa, Honorable Kangombe. I always mismatch him with Honorable Mpundu, who is an independent. Lest he gets into trouble with his party, I apologize sincerely for the mix-up. He is a member of the PF, and yes. But I've always looked at them as twins, as they were working as DC and the town mayor in Kitwe. So I sincerely apologize for that. I hope you don't get admonished for that by your party. And thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Nyimba, for at least owning up that this road was not submitted. It is important, it is extremely crucial and critical that we capture all the problems that face our people, especially in terms of connectivity. Because as you know, to repair a crossing point that has just been washed away by rain becomes an emergency. And by just that, you will find that the cost of attending to an emergency could even be 2, 3, or sometimes 4 times more expensive. So my encouragement to honorable members is talk to your councillors. Because I also know you are here half of the year. Talk to your councillors who are living in these localities to submit the information that your people are facing on a daily basis so that you can factor it in with the technocrats of your council so that this information flow is not disjointed. Sometimes you get excess rain, which may collapse certain infrastructure. Those do qualify. If you run through such a calamity, it is open for you to go to the minister and say, we have this tragedy. The government will certainly respond. But let's not make it a pattern to work according to a tragedy. Let us plan ahead, make sure that all the crossing points that are critical are attended to in good time. It will be cheaper for us than attending to them in February, for instance, when it's downpouring. It will not help us. So I'm inviting all of you members to, that's how to become a good MP, not just coming here, whoa, 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 talking, no. Go to the whoa, 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 whoa as not interpretation. It is as it comes out. Go to the people, the ones who voted for you. They will find more value in you than you coming to expose yourself about your past sins here in this house.
Let's make progress. Next question, the Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the good people of Gwembe, question number 56.
The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Member for Gwembe asked the Minister of Justice, A, when the government will procure furniture for Jipepo local court in Gwembe district, B, what the cost of furniture is, and C, when the local court will be opened to the public. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that A, the government has started the process of procuring furniture for Jipepo local court. The Zambia Correctional Services was on 26 May 2022 engaged to supply benches, chairs, and tables for the said court. B, the said furniture for Jipepo local court shall be procured at a total cost of 24,900 kwacha only. And C, it is anticipated that the court shall be opened to the public by December 2022. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that very good answer. That is how it's supposed to be. We are proud of our ministers. However, Honorable Minister, this furniture has been procured as we are talking. It is marooned in Livingstone at the correctional facility. Now, the bureaucrats are saying the Member of Parliament must go to Livingstone and collect this furniture. Honorable Minister, when are you going to clear or remove these rogues in our system who are bent to damage the reputation of the New Dawn government and frustrating the work of the New Dawn government by failing just to take furniture from Livingstone to Gwembe? As you are aware, Honorable Minister, the policy of our colleagues was that you must be a PF for you to get a job. When are you going to ensure that we have people in the system that will work for the people of Zambia? I submit.
The Honorable Minister for Justice.
Thank you to the Honorable Member for that question. Indeed, it comes to me with a sense of shock, surprise, and sorrow that this situation should pertain. Certainly, the matter will be looked into by the appropriate authorities to ascertain what the delay is in conducting such a simple task. However, Mr. Speaker, with that being said, the Honorable Member raises a very important point about civil servants aligning themselves to the objectives of the government of the day. And it is indeed a sad day in our country where we see individuals that feel they owe allegiance to a political party whilst they are serving in the civil service. This should not be allowed. And certainly there is need for that to be looked into with the strongest possible lenses, because the rules are very clear as to what sort of individuals should hold office as civil servants. It cannot be allowed, if that is taking place, to continue, and certainly the New Dawn government will not allow such individuals to stand in the way of delivery on behalf of the people of Zambia. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to rise on a very important point of order, Mr. Speaker, in pursuant to Standing Order number 65, content of speech, and I quote, a member who is debating shall not...
Honorable Member, when indicating, you indicated that you wanted to debate. You didn't indicate that you are rising on a point of order. So which one of the two?
I'm rising on a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, I didn't allow you to speak on a point of order. You indicated that you wanted to debate. Any debate? There's a point of order. Honorable Member of Mpika, you've indicated that you want to rise on a point of order.
Affirmative, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 65. Is the Honorable Member for Gwembe in order, Mr. Speaker, to insinuate that the whole civil service of our country is run by PF cadres when he knows most of the people that have been appointed to head departments under the civil service are actually UPND members? Is he in order to insinuate that our professional civil servants are all PF cadres who do not deserve those jobs? I need your very serious ruling, Mr. Speaker, or our people are not going to have any trust in our civil service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I've heard you, Honorable Member. I think the Honorable Member for Gwembe was not in order to indicate that all the civil servants that have been appointed PF. That is my ruling. Next, notice of motion. The Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House urges government to abolish the position of District Commissioner.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the motion is seconded.
The motion seconded by the Honorable Member for Nalolo. The question is that this House urges government to abolish the position of District Commissioner. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Rumezi.
Mr. Speaker, before I deliver my speech, allow me to express my gratitude to you for giving me the privilege to move this private member's motion that seeks to urge government to abolish the position of District Commissioner. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to inform the House that this motion emanates from public concerns regarding the functional and economic relevance of district commissioners. Additionally, this motion has good intentions and should be seen as an opportunity for this House to minimize political interference in decentralizing the local governance administration structures through the abolition of the position of district commissioners. Mr. Speaker, as I proceed, permit me to provide some context to the historical background of district commissioners and how the office affects the autonomy, decentralization, and devolution of central functions at local level. Mr. Speaker, The House may be aware that the position of District Commissioner previously existed in various forms during the pre- and post-independence era, taking the form of district governor and district administrator respectively. The position was abolished in 1980 when government introduced decentralization and its functions were merged with town clerk or council secretary, creating the position of district executive secretary, who was the principal officer coordinating the integrated district administration with professional qualifications and non-political in nature. But today this position is held by party cadres who are indirectly involved in partisan politics. Mr. Speaker, the integrated district administration is perhaps the most genuine attempt in Zambia's recent history to abolish the position of district commissioner and remove the duplication of roles between the district governance and local government administration. This attempt was done through the local administration reforms, which involved extensive devolution of central powers and functions to councils. However, owing to poor economic performance and shrinking resource base, government failed to pave way for an autonomous local administration system. In short, we have failed to decentralize. Mr. Speaker, in 1999, government led by the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy decided to restore the position of district administrator, and the position was renamed as district commissioner as we know it today. This decision resulted in structural inefficiencies at district level owing to political abuse of this position by successive governments. In spite of the numerous inefficiencies of the district commissioner, the United Party for National Development government has sustained the position. This action is contrary to their 2021 manifesto on page 16, where the party commits to review and align the roles of the district commissioners with the functions of the town clerks and council secretaries. And Mr. Speaker, when I'm done, I will lay the party manifesto of the UPND on the floor of the House. On that premise, allow me to share my rationale for abolishing the position of district commissioner. The rationale is enumerated as follows. The position of district commissioner is a duplication of local government administration functions. Mr. Speaker, over the years, councils have become the hub of government activities with direct link between district residents and central government as provided for in the Constitution of Zambia, Act number 2 of 2016. The mayors and council chairpersons perform a number of roles, including superintending over policy matters and ensuring the preparation and implementation of district strategic plans and annual budgets. The position of district commissioner is irrelevant at district level, as it has continued to antagonize the statutory roles of mayors, council chairpersons, and members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, it is worrying to note that the roles performed by district commissioners often overlap with those performed by local government officials who coordinate and supervise the discharge of functions across the 7 administrative departments. In this regard, the position of district commissioner renders itself redundant, and its abolition would allow local authorities and other government departments to operate independently and professionally. The position of district commissioner is a wasteful expenditure on the treasury. Mr. Speaker, based on the rationale presented thus far, it is obvious that the position of district commissioner is a treasury burden on taxpayers. Government loses millions of kwacha annual and monthly salaries, allowances, and other maintenance costs which are paid to district commissioners in 116 districts. Other entitlements include gratuities, which are paid either at the expiry or upon the termination of their contracts. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious from this evidence provided there is no financial prudence in maintaining the position of district commissioner. Therefore, its abolishment will provide significant savings which could finance programs to reduce poverty, provide quality education and health services in line with the 2023 budget theme, stimulating economic growth for improved livelihoods. The position of district commissioner contradicts acceptable norms and values of local government autonomy. Mr. Speaker, according to Dr. Jimmy Chulu, a renowned governance and decentralization expert, it is important for any local government system to uphold local autonomy and authority because it helps build the relationship between elected leaders and the electorates. Mr. Speaker, based on this criteria, the position of district commissioner contradicts the intention of having democratically elected officials to perform executive functions within the district boundaries. The dual administration system also creates unnecessary parallel structures and adds more weight to the existing government bureaucracies. Maintaining the office of district commissioner is an affront to the decentralization reform agenda. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, decentralization by devolution is part of the United Party for National Development manifesto. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, your papers are good. Moreover, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, in his maiden address during the official opening of the first session of the 13th National Assembly, committed to decentralize various central government functions to local authorities. Mr. Speaker, before Zambia fully implements the decentralization and devolution agenda, it is necessary for government to undertake meaningful district administration reforms, starting with abolition of district commissioners. As I conclude, let me urge all the honorable members of parliament of this august house to support this non-controversial and progressive motion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Later, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Any debate? The honorable member for Mwembeshi.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for according the people of Mwembeshi time to speak. I'm very careful, Mr. Speaker, today because my colleague usually when he stands, he said that whenever you see Jamba and the Kambita or Kambita, you know that the motion is a BID. Mr. Speaker, before I continue debating, let me refer you to a document which I've got here. This is a document which the very mover of the motion actually rendered to his house on the 17th of November on a Wednesday 2021. He rose on a matter of urgent public importance. Madam Speaker, I'm quoting, Mr. Speaker, I'm quoting, yes. Madam Speaker, I'm quoting. Madam Speaker, a matter of urgent public importance is raised. Mr. Munia Zuru. Madam Speaker, I raise on a very matter of details of Ministry of Youth and Sport and Art. He continues to say, Madam Speaker, I stand here as a youth and to respond the interest of the youths. Should the Honorable Minister of Youth, Sport and Art be seated comfortably in here, knowing that the youths outside there are not being considered? Now, in his consideration, he said that youths were crying outside because they are not being appointed as DCs. What type of motions are these where people flip-flop? The other time was saying that this job for DC is good for the youths, for them to be employed. And that my minister here was seated in we, not responding to the appointment of the
Honorable
DC.
member, what do you mean by Ndui?
Idling, silently, Madam, Mr. Speaker. That the honorable minister here was idling when he himself,
the youths there are crying for the job of the DC. And he came here that he has an interest in the youth being what? DCs. How can he say today that he has got no interest of the office of the DC? I'm going to lay this paper as evidence that this man who brought the motion is an interested party in the office of the what? The DC. Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, this is a constitutional matter. The powers to appoint DCs, the powers of the office of a DC are actually enshrined in the Constitution. That the president may appoint, the way he appoints permanent secretaries at provinces, permanent secretaries everywhere, he is able to appoint a DC. The issue here is that if my young brother has got a problem with a DC in personality, he should not look unto the office. The office of the DC is actually a link between the head of state and the DC himself and the government operating ministries. To confuse the council chairpersons and the elected people of the DC is not knowing the governance of the state. Let me put it this way, Mr. Speaker. The council chairperson is head of the local government. He does not supervise the Ministry of Agriculture. He does not supervise the Minister of Sport. He cannot supervise tourism. Therefore, to think that a chairperson or whoever from the council, from the local government, is going to coordinate government programs is being misinformed and being mischievous. Mr. Speaker, the issue here is that a district commissioner is the one who organizes all the ministries and the activities of the government. If the brother had any issues, he was going to bring a motion to say, let us streamline the duties of the DC. Maybe that one would have supported it. But to abolish the office of a DC is as good as saying a chief who hasn't got headmen. Where does he come from? There are no headmen where these people come from. You have got a chief, and then a chief will have headmen to overlook what happens in the villages. This is what is happening. A DC is a village headman of the what? The district, who oversees the functionalities of the government. And therefore, this motion is mischievous, brought in dead, and it must be thrown away with the contempt it deserves. Because, Mr. Speaker, we are tired of motions which are mischievous and which have got no substance. Mr. Speaker, if you want to remove the DC, who is going to be looking at agriculture and look to say that the program of FISIP is actually being implemented in a better way? Who is going to coordinate the disaster management at the district level? Who is going to, that means people don't even understand what they're talking about. Because when you have got a disaster, as members of parliament, we are actually party to this disaster management, where the DC calls the heads of department as is chairing the meeting, and we are part of that. So who is going to call them? You are a member of parliament who is actually in the legislature. Let me, first of all, flip on the other side. Mr. Speaker, you know that we have got three arms of governance. We have got the executive where we are here, we have got the executive, and we have got also the judiciary. Now, trying to prescribe who is relevant in executive is as good as the executive coming here and telling us that we don't want deputy speaker number 2. It's as good as that. Why do you want to come and go into the executive and start telling them how to run the executive? We are not interested. As a registrator here, what we are saying is that let us fall in our lane. Mr. Speaker, you see, this parliament here, where we are as a legislator, we are able to choose who is going to be the deputy speaker. Do we need a first deputy speaker? The executive cannot come and tell us, no, what is the use of the third speaker? That is as good as telling us the DC is a prerogative of the executive and the president. Let them run their government and the way they deem to be run, not bring mischievous motions here which are BID. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. But in your next debate, Honorable Jamba, avoid bringing presiding officers into the context of your debate. That's being mischievous. The Honorable Member for Kafisa indicated that he wants to rise on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Reluctantly, I've risen. Standing Order 65 on the immediate past debater. Mr. Speaker, I'll begin by defining the word mischievous, with your permission. The word mischievous means causing or showing a fondness for causing trouble in a playful way. That's the meaning of mischievous. Mr. Speaker, given that definition of the word mischievous, and given the debate by the Member of Parliament for Mwembeshi, where he indicates that he's tired of Parliament entertaining mischievous motions. Mr. Speaker, your office authorizes motions. For a motion to come on the floor of the House, it means your office has authorized. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, to define you as a mischievous speaker who allows mischievous motions? I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Kafisa, you should always desist, including involving the presiding officer in your debate. That's being, just like I ruled earlier. I think I told Honorable Member for Mwembeshi that you should not include the presiding officers into your debates. However, I don't see anything wrong in that word in the context it was used. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kafulafuta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving us the opportunity to submit our humble opinion on the motion on the floor. I think the history of this is...
Order. I think there's some technical error with the Honorable Member for Mbapashe. His mic is not working. So maybe IT, you can address those concerns because he's been wanting to indicate, but he's been failing. So let's see to it that his iPad? All right, okay. I think they'll come to attend to that. Honorable Member, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was saying the history of DCs come a long way. And in the UNIP days, we had district governors who later, when the MMD came into office, thought they were a wasteful wing of the government and money was being spent for nothing. The MMD abolished the office of the district governor, only to realize later on that they actually needed a representation at the district level. So they brought in what they called district administrators. And the district administrators were abolished by the PF when they gave the title of the district commissioner. So by His Excellency President Manawasa, I beg your pardon, So, in my brief debate, Mr. Speaker, it is definite that every government needs an immediate or a direct office to deal with at district level. However, my major concern that I have observed in the short time that I've been in office as Member of Parliament and having some district commissioners around, it has been the interference in the work of the members of Parliament. I have a lot of evidence that I can present to show how my work has been made very, very difficult by the district commissioner. So it's clear that we need the district commissioners with us, but what we need is a clear separation of powers. Can we really understand where their powers start from and where they end? That way I think it's going to help us instead of us fighting one another. We are going to collaborate and complement one another. As things stand now, Mr. Speaker, I can't say that there is any collaboration between my office and the district commissioner. Every project that we have approved as CDF committee and made recommendations, every decision has been reversed by the district commissioner. I fully appreciate the office and agree that we need district commissioners in every district, but I think there's been too much interference in our work. Whereas we need clear directions, clear separation of powers. We can't have effective rule of law without separation of powers. We have legal personnel here that will help us understand that. So much as I agree with the office, or rather to have the office of the district commissioners, I have serious concerns, Mr. Speaker, on the way district commissioners are behaving. While they are supposed to be the eyes of the president and all that, most of them have not captured the president's vision. Because I think a district commissioner would be more effective if they capture the heart of the vision of the president and begin to act the way the president would act if he was in a district. But we're seeing a situation where the president's vision is somewhere else, and some of the district commissioners are operating in a different way and pushing for their own agendas, not national agendas or not even the agenda of the president. So much as I support this office, Mr. Speaker, I wish to rest my case by saying, yes, we need district commissioners, but their parameters must be clearly defined for us to start fighting one another. Instead, we need to collaborate and complement one another. I thank you.
Thank you. I think I should mention here at this stage that the whips, both the government chief whip has availed the list for the would-be debaters. In the same vein, the whip for the opposition patriotic front also, they've availed the list of the would-be debaters. So in an event that I don't pick you, don't feel offended, I've got lists with me here that I'll follow. The Honorable Member for Rwena.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to the people of Luena to debate this vexatious motion. Mr. Speaker, the motion for the record, is urging the government to do away with the position of district commissioner. Now, our colleagues on your left, Mr. Speaker, had quite a number of issues to say on this matter. And I want to take the House back to the year 2012, when the leader of government then, the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Guy Scott, delivered a ministerial statement on the floor of this House. And Mr. Speaker, in that statement, I would like to indicate and demonstrate the difference between the DC of the previous regime and the DC of this New Dawn government. Mr. Speaker, in that ministerial statement, after it was delivered, members asked questions. And in responding to a question from Professor Lungwangwa, who was the Member of Parliament for Narikwanda, the Vice President had this to say: there is no need to recruit from the PF, as I have made very clear that there is a need also not to discriminate against the PF on the grounds that one is afraid of criticism from the people who lost the elections. Now, this response, Mr. Speaker, was to a question in which the Vice President was being asked to clarify whether the PF was going to recruit DCs from among their cadres. He specifically said they will not discriminate. Mr. Speaker, I go a little bit further in responding to a question by Honorable Hamududu, who wanted to know what kind and level of professionals are supposed to occupy the district commissioner's offices. The Vice President said, I am not aware of any firm guidelines on that matter. There were no guidelines beyond just being a member of that regime. Mr. Speaker, in responding to a question, and this is my final quote, to Honorable Member for Kalabo Central, the Vice President was asked to indicate whether the government had taken any initiative to orient the newly appointed DCs so that they become neutral as stipulated in their conditions of service. This is what the Vice President had to say. And I must add, Mr. Speaker, that when that question was asked, the members on your right, who are now sitting on the left, actually said, Emma questions here. They were very happy with that question. Now, this is the response that the Vice President gave. He said the DCs, at the very least, are equipped with the code of ethics of the public service. He never made any reference to any guided and professional document that was guiding their commitment or their employment in the civil service, which he said was very explicit and very clear on how they would perform their duties. Mr. Speaker, this is how the former regime approached the office of the DC. Fast forward to 2021. Everybody would know that the New Dawn administration actually took time to appoint people to this position. And that is because, Madam Speaker, the New Dawn applied itself to this. And as a consequence of that, we are not only working with code of ethics, there is a complete job description for a DC. And I can see that even the mover of this motion, and probably understand why even the seconder is hesitating, because the mover didn't even indicate the contradictions he was claiming exist. There is a job description for the DC. And in this job description, Mr. Speaker, it's very clear, and I only read the headline or the heading. It says, the job purpose is to coordinate central government functions and the developmental activities, as well as harmonize these functions with those of the local authority in order to ensure effective implementation of the development programs in the districts. Where is the contradiction? Where is the confusion? There is absolutely no confusion. Mr. Speaker, the detailed job description has got about 8 areas: district coordination, government policies and programs, registration, monitoring and evaluation, District Development Coordinating Committee, ad hoc assignments, performance management, and management. What can you fault about this? There is nothing to falter here, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, maybe in order for people to understand what is the criteria that is used now in order to employ people in these positions, unlike in the past, Madam Speaker, where the regime then was very clear that you need to be a member of the party in order to be appointed in this government position. This document, Mr. Speaker, is clear. It spells out under Part 6, knowledge and the skills requirement. It says minimum primary stroke secondary education is full Form 5 stroke grade 12 certificate. It doesn't end there, Mr. Speaker. It says further that B, minimum vocational and professional qualifications, a degree in public administration, stroke development studies, or any other related degree. Mr. Speaker, the qualification to come to this house ends on A. The qualification to be appointed as a district commissioner has got a vocational requirement. And therefore, and Mr. Speaker, one is mindful of the fact that, in fact, even that grade 12 requirement, sometimes you still have members, Mr. Speaker, who have problems with just that criteria. But as a district commissioner, you are required to have a degree. So this government, Mr. Speaker, has professionalized the position of the DC. And it has a lot. Mr. Speaker, the members on the left certainly can see the marked difference between how they operated or abused this office as compared to what the New Dawn government is doing. It was not uncommon, Mr. Speaker, for DCs to be abused to pursue party programs. Who doesn't know that the job of the DCs in the previous regime was to hijack government programs for political purposes? That's certainly not happening today. Yeah. We do know. In districts like Kembe, the DC's job was just to get relief minimal from the government to distribute to party cadres in order to secure political mileage. Thank goodness that didn't work. And this government isn't going to make the same mistake the previous regime made. It's no wonder the position of the DC has been professionalized. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you. Why was the House so excited when you mentioned about forging? The leader of the opposition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me. It's not actually the leader of opposition that indicated, sir. Me was indicating. Mr. Speaker, I think we don't need to be apolitical on this motion. And my debate will just focus on how this motion is a test to how ready we are to fully implement the decentralization policy. And if people haven't had a chance to read, they shouldn't question what they don't understand. And I'm happy that the honorable colleague for Rwena was belaboring the point that now people who are appointed to the office of the DC are degree holders. But interestingly, today, where I come from in Mchinga, one of the DCs had to run away from offsetting the Teachers' Day because of the problems of addressing educated people in our local language. I think the Honorable MP for Nakonde can attest to that. Mr. Speaker, the interesting question is, what sort of governance system do we need to go with? We are saying we should decentralize, which simply means devolution of portfolio functions of government to the bottom. We have the current constitution, Mr. Speaker, which was tailored to the implementation of the decentralization policy. And if you look at the governance structures in the decentralization policy, this particular office we are talking about does not exist. All the portfolio functions that are now reporting to this particular office from central government are aligned to the local authorities. And that's the reason why now you have people being elected to the office of council chairperson and mayor directly by the people, which was not the case, because in the past, councillors would get elected and then elect someone to be, but to align the functions of the local authorities in readiness for decentralization policy. If you look at the constitution, it doesn't provide for this office. It's understandable that the executive, the president, has got the executive powers to appoint and create offices. But I'm saying, how then are we going 10 steps forward and 20 steps backwards? If you look even now, sir, the current fund that which has attracted a lot of focus, is the Constituency Development Fund, being administered by the local authorities. What is it doing? Building schools, clinics, teachers' houses, and all that which the central government is supposed to be doing. So in practical terms, you are channeling resources to the local authorities. Even now as I speak, the Minister of Local Government has been inviting these DCs to come for meetings, and who's on which expenditure? Because they are not receiving resources in the revolving fund, they are riding on the local authorities. So, what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to achieve by having this office, which has got no funding, and all provincial ministers here know what I'm talking about? Because for the DCs to function, they either depend on the local authorities or maybe to some larger extent the PS's office. So we just need to be sincere. It's not that anyone I think the rationale behind the motion moved is how personalities relate. I'm saying this, I'm a third-term member of parliament. I've worked with different DCs. I don't see that as a threat. But let's be clear with how we want to structure the implementation of the decentralization policy. Then we shouldn't be arguing for and against this motion. Because it's straightforward. Like I've said, the structure as put in the decentralization policy do not cater for this office. Talk about agriculture, veterinary, everything is aligned to the local authorities. And all the central government was supposed to be doing is to ensure that we create the structures, channel matching resources to these structures that are already spelled out in the policy. And I think if the move of the motion missed to go to that length, that's what should be added. And I would love to hear the Minister of Local Government, who is at the center of implementing decentralization policy. I do recall very well, in the year 2012, our colleagues who are now on your right-hand side, Mr. Speaker, moved a motion similar to the motion that has been moved by Honorable Mnia Zulu. If indeed our response then, because the roadmap for decentralization policy was not clear, was in the negative, it shouldn't be the case now, because we have to move. And you know, where mistakes have been made, let's acknowledge them. So to try and say, no, because you refused, we are also going to refuse, we are not taking this country anywhere. We have got on this country. You are there today, tomorrow you might be this side. So let's be progressive. It shouldn't be for and against. It's possible. We were saying the same thing, my dear brother. We were saying the same thing. You might just be there 5 years. You know, when you are that side, it's very interesting. And I'm telling you from experience. And I'm sure my mother, the vice president, who was our presiding officer here, knows what I'm talking about. That the way democracy is evolving, there was 20 years for UPND, for MMD, 10 years for us. you might be just coming down to 5. So don't be blinded by the authority that you have today. So in reality, let's just decide. It shouldn't be a political because it was sponsored by the independent member of parliament. Let's look at the merits. What does this motion seek to achieve? And what I'm saying is that let's be clear. I would love to hear the Minister of Local Government speak clearly because it's through his ministry that this decentralization policy is supposed to be implemented. That's the reason why this fund, which is now being increased to 25, we have had challenges. Why? Because we are not clear. I spoke here that the fund is welcome, but we need to do a lot of work. The challenges we have encountered in CDF are something I spoke to here, and people are murmuring. So all I'm saying is let's just understand that all of us collectively, if we are saying let's go decentralization way, we don't need to hold back. Authority, decentralization has dragged on because of this thing of saying, oh, no, we let power, who is going to be in charge? Let's just be clear. I think the motion is non-controversial. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Order. Honorable Member for Petauke Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Petauke this opportunity to debate on the non-controversial motion. To the people who are researchers like me, but it's also controversial to the people who haven't researched. According to the good people of Petauke, Mr. Speaker, through the research they conducted. First, the district commissioner, the position, when it was created, we never had the council chairpersons in the district. We never had the mayor in some of the districts. But now, we have got the district, sorry, Mr. Speaker, the council chairperson and the mayor, they were elected amongst the councillors. But today, the council chairperson, the district commissioner, or the mayor, they are elected separately in their own box, the way the MP is elected, the way the president is elected. Mr. Speaker, let me debate. Yeah. Yes. We are strong. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, these positions, there's a tug of war of power in some districts. Unless we all agree that maybe the district commissioner, they should go under orientation again to be oriented, because a lot of departments, as we are talking now, they have been devolved. Dissolution of, because of decentralization, a lot of departments now are reporting to the council secretary or town clerk. So you find that the DC has got less job. And then if we finish the decentralization process, the district commissioner is not going to have any job. So maybe let's just wait.
Honorable member, if you want to rise on a point of order, you have to indicate we've got these gadgets that I'm able to see from here. Hello? If I can't see, then how do I allow? Because we've got these gadgets where you are supposed to indicate. The honorable member, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that protection. Mr. Speaker, the position of the DC, to the understanding of the good people of Petauke, maybe at the moment we can let it be as we are waiting for the decentralization to to be completed. Because after decentralization, that position won't have any impact in the
There's a
district.
point of order by honorable member from Mbabala.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. For giving the people of Mbabala, good people of Mbabala, an opportunity to rise on this point of order. According to Standing Order 65, the person speaking, the member speaking must be factual. Mr. Speaker, the job description for the DC has just been read by the honorable member who debated the area on. And the member who is speaking is talking about the heads of department reporting to the council chair. The council chair is only managing council officers and not departments like tourism and the like, which are clearly defined in the job description. Is the honorable member therefore in order to mislead this house and this nation on a wrong job description for the council chair or mayor compared to the district commissioner? Because the one for these two job descriptions are very clear and the people they supervise are very well known. The chair council officers or the mayor council officers, the DC government line ministry officers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg your ruling on this matter.
Thank you. For my understanding, the district commissioner is responsible for central government. And then the council chairperson or the mayor is responsible for local government. So the two are distinctive and separate operatives at district level. So at no time should there be some interference whatsoever. And I think there was a member who spelled out some of the functions that are quite evident in our mind, the responsibilities of the district commissioner. So, honorable member, we should be able to understand the roles of a district commissioner and the role of a chairperson or the mayor, because the two operatives operate at the district level for two different functions. The other one is at the helm of the district representing local government, who is an elective official. The other one represents the central government at district level. So let's not mislead the public as we are debating. The honorable member, you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that guidance. And when I just started debating, my fellow member of parliament, I earlier said that those who have done research, I'm sure they will be able to understand, because according to the research conducted by the good people of Petauke, in all the districts across the country, there are some departments which were devolved, which are reporting to the council secretary, not the council chairman. So there are some also which are still reporting to the district commissioner.
Honorable member, I think I've guided you on that one. Okay, you can continue.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Speaker. All in all, I say I don't support the what, because I wanted to explain. Now I'm being curtailed. So I support the position of the DC.
The honorable member for Pampashe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, history has it that people don't learn from experience. Your predecessor, Mr. Musa Mwanamwamba, said the problem of politics, we don't learn from the predecessors, hence we keep making same mistakes. And Mr. Speaker, during the debate, I listened from some debaters that DC position is a constitution position. I was part of the people here who passed this constitution, Mr. Speaker. You can read from page 1 to the last page. A position of the DC does not exist. But the position of a council chairperson and the mayor do exist in the constitution. The position of a DC is an administrative arrangement by the executive so that the president can have sight at the district level. And if you read the decentralization policy, I think it is unfortunate the Minister of Local Government has gone. He understands that Secretary to Cabinet has done the memo to the Council, Mr. Speaker, that certain functions and positions are reporting to the Council Secretaries as we are speaking now, with a view to decentralize power. And my honorable brothers, I want to share experience with you. When we were sitting there, 10% of the MPs were sitting here, former DC. There is no one. And I can assure you, he was our DC. And I can assure you that by 2026, 2/3 of the MPs there will be DCs. And it is important because you are in government. And for the opposition, all of these members, if they do well, they can retain. And unfortunately, experience, I've been here for 3 terms, my friends. Honorable Msotwane can agree that experience is the best teacher. You can discredit my debate today. You will remember these words I'm speaking today. You will remember them. There is no need for us to be antagonistic. The position of the DC was meant to represent the president at the district level. But with the introduction of decentralization, which is the policy by the president, according to the constitution, devolves power to the council secretaries. That's why today, Mr. Speaker, you find at the district, Debs is supposed to report to the council secretary or the mayor. The DACO is supposed to report to the council secretary or the mayor, according to the secretary by secretary to cabinet. Those are facts. If you have not checked, you find there's conflict. Honorable the Minister for Youth and Sport. Wait. Your DC is busy in Kaputa. Wait. Mr. Speaker, I was sitting behind there as a Deputy Minister for Youth and Sport. I moved as a Deputy Minister for Labor. There are people who were boasting and saying, me, I'm very popular. Even if I stood with Jesus, I can only lose. But they lost it to a DC. And I have my DC here. And we defended the position of a DC. By then, my brother Mbura, we were together as Deputy Ministers of Labor. And she was a DC for Kalulushi.
Honorable member for Kalulushi, let's avoid those ranting.
So, Mr. Speaker, we need to look at a broader perspective. What is it that the UPND government stands for? Is it decentralization? Is it taking power to the people? Because I was seeing the president saying, we want even to take power to sub-bomber. The sub-bomber are the wards. Now, if we are saying the district commissioners are coordinating functions in other districts, who's going to be the sub-bomber at the ward? Again, who appoint a representative of the president at the ward level? So then, if you read the decentralization policy, you will understand that it was meant to give power to the people, for the people to decide. One person cannot decide on behalf of all the executive members. That one is the representative of the president. At the ward level, we have people that are making decisions on behalf of the community. At the constituency level, we have people that are making decisions on behalf of the community. We come to the district. We have people that are sitting and making decisions on behalf of the community. But if we can't agree, we continue, as the Honorable Member of Parliament for Shuangandu said, we introduce the policy. We cannot implement that policy. We move 5 steps forward. We move 5 steps backwards. Where are we going to go one day as a country, Zambia? What is it that we want? We also questioned when the UPND moved the motion here. We were sitting there. We said question and we defeated them because of the stubbornness of the numbers. We had numbers, but today, if we had listened, we would have sat there, those ministers who were very loud, like the Minister of Youth and Sport, Mr. Speaker, who voted against. The following parliament, they lost to district commissioners. And DC Kaputa, He's a member of parliament here, Mr. Speaker. So we had a lot of people who questioned every normal decision that government would do. Now the question I would want our Honour the Vice President, as she responds to answer, what is the policy direction of the UPND government? Is it decentralization? If it is decentralization, is the position of the DC provided for in the decentralization policy? Is the position of the DC provided for in the Zambian constitution, or it is an administrative arrangement? Because some members of parliament even gave false information here, Mr. Speaker, as they were debating to say a position of a DC is the constitutional position. As members of parliament, we must brace ourselves before we debate, because what we say here, Mr. Speaker, remain unanswered. Even 30 years from now, the people who come and refer to the things we are doing today. We cannot come and water down the integrity of parliament because of partisan position. We must be able to state things as they are. My brothers and sisters, my fellow honorable, through you, Mr. Speaker, in Bemba we say, Wakwebele, Kwanoko, Mutanshi, there has been meaning for want, for better. Where we come from, Honorable Mr. Speaker, there are two constituencies. With one no DC, it will be difficult for him to coordinate and undermine an MP. But people like Kaputa, who come from one district, one constituency, it is very difficult. Because the DC is a member of parliament, while the member of parliament is making noise here, who is a minister with executive function. A DC is working. No, the Rio is a gentleman. Now, I don't want to draw him in my deliberation. And we go to my brother, the MP for Rufwanyama. Can you agree with me? He was a DC for Rufwanyama. Today is a member of parliament. Where's the MP for Rufwanyama? As the DC for Rufwanyama is now a member of parliament here in Lusaka. The DC for Rufwanyama is busy working. In Bemba we say, Ichiringolingirako omu nove, nove chwakakulingirako. The measure you put to your friend, the same measure will be used against you. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Kalomo Central.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I get very concerned and worried if always distraction will be a solution. Destroying anything is never a solution, Mr. Speaker. If a human being commits suicide on a tree, you do not cut all the trees. Because you are going to have climate problems, you won't have any firewood, your livelihood will be affected. Any mind that thinks of destruction or abortion needs to. It's a wrong way of doing things. Now, here, Mr. Speaker, the definition is very clear here of the roles of a DC. For instance, I'll give another example on the issues of abortion. We have had presidents in the world, some that plundered the economy, brought in tribalism, left the country in huge debts, left the country literally limping. But they have never come to say, abolish the position of the president. We have had the same people that are coming, because when I'm looking at somebody who's advising me, I must check who he is. Today he comes, he has quarreled with the students, he removes student allowance. He quarrels with the students simply say, we need the student allowance. He removes it. Then again he comes after 2 years to me, hey, bring back the student allowance. The same person who removed it. What am I supposed to think? Which advice am I supposed to take? And this is where we have a problem now. Yeah. So you can't take distraction or abolishment as a solution to anything. No. The solution is to sit down. Everything has got challenges. Nothing is perfect. But what is important is on daily basis, work towards improving whatever system
There's
you
a
have.
point of order.
Even in democracy.
Order. There's a point of order by the honorable member for Matero. I pass, I give it to the chief whip. Protocol demands. Our rules don't allow that. So may the honorable member continue. Take your seat, take your seat.
We have now known the reason why they want to abolish the DCs. It's because they are afraid of competition. They think that DCs are going to take up their positions as member of parliament. But we cannot narrow the debate to such thinking. No. Here it's about the job they are doing. Yes. Now, let me go ahead, Mr. Speaker. These are the same people that made a lot of people lose jobs. With one motion, they want to declare 116 people redundant without employment. They are very good at creating unemployment. These people are employed, and their employer is not complaining. All the money is there to pay them. The DCs have a very good job to do.
Order. There's a point of order by Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for permitting me to raise this very important point of order pursuant to Standing Order 65 and the relevance of speech. Mr. Speaker, I've had an opportunity to serve as Minister of Local Government where my elder brother is. This matter is a matter of policy. The motion moved by the independent member of parliament is very clear. Very clear. And to make it clear, Mr. Speaker, the issue we're raising...
but you have to cite what has been breached.
That's what I'm coming to, Mr. Speaker.
Start with it.
Mr. Speaker.
Start with that.
Can you give me time, Mr. Speaker? Give me time to raise the matter so that you rule appropriately informed.
But don't debate your own point of order.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable MP on the floor is accusing the mover of the motion and those of us who have spoken to it as fearing competition from the office. I spoke here on a matter of policy, and I indicated, look at the Honorable Ministers, that is disorderly.
Order, give him chance, let him speak. Let's not distract him. Let's observe order. You all know Standing Orders 204, what it states, the issues of etiquette and conduct in the House. So, Honorable Member, you can continue. You have my protection.
Honorable Mr. Speaker, the Honorable MP for Petauke was giving a scenario as it is obtained because there are pilot districts where this decentralization policy is being tested. And that reporting structure I was mentioning is obtaining in those pilot districts. And I think the Minister of Local Government will speak to that. Was there the Honorable Member, seasoned colleague from Kalomo, in order to insinuate that those of us who have spoken to this motion are fearing this is when some of us are even more senior than him, who have worked with different DCs. Is in order, sir, to make such insinuations on the floor? I seek your serious ruling, sir.
I think the Honorable Member's statements that some of the people are afraid of the DCs, I think he was just trying to tell you that you just have to work hard. There's no need to fear DCs if you know what you are doing, you know your game. So the Honorable Member was just trying to ensure that members of Parliament should work hard. May the Honorable Member continue.
I think when the debate is going on, it's very important we pay attention. Because I listened to that Honorable Chitotela, and he gave many examples. Yes, and I was actually reacting to that. But I come again. In 2012, about 2012, the PF refused to remove the DC. What has changed in between now for them to come and tell us to remove the DC? This is where I have a problem. This is why I have a problem. They refuse to remove the DC. Today they are coming again and say, you see, when you are in town, in city center or somewhere, a street boy comes and says, you have a puncture. When you have no puncture, just know it's up to no good. And this is the same situation we are in here. Yes. If you follow that, you are done. You are done. And this is why I have a problem here. Now, the DC here, Honorable Kampiongo said, we don't need the DC in decentralization. Where is decentralization going? Is it not going to the district? We are removing decentralization to the district, and you want to take to the district where there is no head. You want a cow to move without a head. Where do you start from in the district? The head here is the DC. The council chairman works with the council. He chairs the councillors. He doesn't chair the civil servants. He doesn't. He chairs the councillors, and that's why his title comes the council chairperson. The person who chairs the whole district is the DC. He is the head of all the civil servants. He's the civil servants, and even us, when we go to visit any district, the starting point is the DC. If you want an accurate information about what is happening in the district, you begin with the DC. And now they are saying, let's remove the head. How do you operate like that? Because even a train has got a head. What they are suggesting to us is having all the tracks of the train without a head. You can't call that a train.
Order.
So,
Order. As the time now is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for health break for 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. You're tuned in to Parliament Television. Business resumes at 17 hours, and on the floor of the House is Kaloma Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Harry Amboli, debating a motion that has been moved by Lumezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Munir Zulu, titled Abolish Position of District Commission. And this motion is being seconded by Nalolo Member of Parliament, Mr. Wamunima Imamba.
And earlier on, the House did consider 3 questions for oral answer under 74. I'll be able to share with you the details of the question. And so that's still to come. We do have the motion, which was moved by the Minister of Finance, that the House do resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2022. So we'll have members of Parliament debating the budget speech. For now, we'll take a break and we'll be back after 15 minutes or so. Keep watching Parliament Television.
The role of the presiding officer is to coordinate and manage the plenary sessions during the parliamentary sitting.
The role of the presiding officer in elections, I think, is in charge of the station is in charge at the polling station. Is overseer of everything, that is all the activities that are happening at the polling station. Is a presiding officer.
A presiding officer is a person who makes sure debates are done in a fair manner.
A presiding officer is a person who makes sure there's order and law in the house in case of anything. Yes, sir.
The law of a presiding officer is to make sure there is order in the house.
The law of the presiding officer in the parliament, debates are made in a light manner.
A presiding officer, this is someone who presides over a debate or a forum, and that is to be specific in parliament. Now this person ensures that there is a proper conduct in the hearing processes of the whole debate as parliament is in session, and this person also ensures that there are no delays in the whole procedures of parliament dealings.
This is basically ensuring there's order in the house. That's what I understand by the term, the role of the presiding officer in the house.
Well, very interesting views from the people out there on what they know on the issue to do with the presiding officer. You are now watching Voice of the People. My name is Paul Ndovi, and it is a program that gives a platform to our people out there to express what they understand about parliamentary procedure that goes on the floor of the House. My guest on the program is the Deputy Principal Clerk from the Research Department, and this is Mr. Kabwiwi Mubanga. Thank you so much for finding time and appear on the Voice of the People program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Person. It's always a pleasure to join you on the set.
Briefly tell us your work here at the National Assembly as Deputy Principal Clerk Research.
Well, my role is to provide supervision to the senior research officers who are directly supervisors of the research officers. The research officers are the officers who provide, do the research for all the information requests that come from members of parliament. So my role is basically to just supervise the supervisors of the research officers.
What are some of the common requests that do come to your office from members of parliament?
Well, the most common request that has come is members of parliament requesting for us to do the research for them when they are about to move private members' motions. You know, especially on Wednesdays, you are aware, Person, members of parliament do move those private members, urging the government to take a position or to do something on a particular issue. So we've seen that that is actually very popular, and a number of members of parliament through the journals department, they do come to us requesting us to support them to get that information. The other information that I've seen that is actually coming out very common is where members of parliament also want us to give some historical information. Like somebody has just been elected as a member of parliament for a particular constituency. So they want to know who have been members of parliament in that constituency. So they want us to provide the names of the previous members of parliament, maybe the position they held, and if we have pictures for them. So that has also been actually a recurring request that we've been receiving from members of parliament. But the leading one is the one to get them information for them to be able to move private members' motions.
Today we look at the role of presiding officers, and we did get to hear some interesting responses from the general public, because we took a tour around the city of Lusaka just to interact with the local people to find out what they understand about the role of presiding officers. But who is a presiding officer?
Very interesting. I know it's the term itself is quite technical. I think that people may know presiding officers by different names. Now, simply put, a presiding officer is an official, a parliamentary official, who is in charge of the affairs of the House. So a presiding officer is this official who presides or superintends or is in charge of the sitting of members of parliament. So when parliament is called, they will meet from Tuesday to Friday. So all those times when they are meeting, somebody has to be in charge. Who I would call, Zambia is a footballing nation. So a presiding officer is more or less like a referee. So a presiding officer is more or less like a referee whenever members of parliament are meeting to transact the business of the House.
Would you be in a position just to share with us the types of presiding officers that we have in the Zambian parliament?
Yes, I think that will even make it easier, Person. Because when we talk about presiding officers, which is a technical term, we are talking about the speaker. Okay? So we have the speaker. Then we have the speaker is assisted in carrying out our role by two deputies. So we have the first deputy speaker, and we also have the second deputy speaker. So those three officials are what are referred to as presiding officers, because when the speaker is not around, for whatever reason, the first deputy speaker is expected to act in that position. If for some reason the speaker and the first deputy speaker, they are all not around, then the second deputy speaker is expected to preside over the business of the House. So the three are what are referred to as presiding officers.
What about the clerks at the table? Some people may confuse the role of, I know we'll have a topic looking at the clerks at the table, but what is the difference?
Well, the difference is that the presiding officers, or what I would put in simple terms as political, on the political side of the National Assembly. Then the clerk and a team of the clerks at the table are on the administrative or staff. So Parliament has political officials, okay, and then Parliament also, or the National Assembly, has the administrative officers or staff of Parliament who support the presiding officer. So the presiding officers are in charge of the sitting of the House, ensuring that things are going as expected. Then for them to carry out that role, they have members of staff who are led by the clerk and has deputies. These are the ones that who provide the advice to members, to the presiding officer. So as the members, presiding officers are carrying out their work, these are like their brains, right? They are their support staff to ensure that the presiding officers actually carry out. So presiding officers are on the political side, then the other ones are administrative.
And how are presiding officers chosen or elected or selected?
Very interesting. I mean, it's something that is provided for in the Constitution. You notice that from Article 82 of our Constitution, Article 82 Clause 1 talks about there shall be the Honorable Mr. Speaker, and then
or Madam Speaker.
Or Madam Speaker. Yes, let me be gender sensitive. So it provides that it shall be the Speaker. Okay, so the Speaker and the two deputies, what happens is after every general election, like the previous general elections we had, it's expected that it's provided for in the Constitution that the President of the Republic of Zambia will nominate 3 individuals. Okay, so there'll be the Speaker, the one to be Speaker, the one to be First Deputy Speaker, the other one to be Second Deputy Speaker. So the President will nominate those. And then other political groupings or political groups in the House do also nominate their own. And then the time will come now, on that designated time, the time will come when elections will be held. And those elections are held by secret ballot. And the elections, the presiding officer for that election of the Speaker, Second Deputy Speaker, is done by the clerk of the National Assembly. So the President will nominate, and then other political groups. Okay, so whoever, so we have the ruling party, where the President belongs, and the other political party, they also nominate. And then now members of Parliament themselves will vote.
So the political party that will nominate a possible Speaker is a political party with the majority number of members of Parliament in the House?
Yes, part of them, yes. So the ruling party will nominate. Okay, so the ruling party who have the majority in our system, they will actually nominate. And then opposition parties, the ones that are not ruling, they also are expected to nominate. Okay, so it's possible that for some reason that the people nominated by the President may go unopposed if the opposition parties do not nominate their own candidates. Yeah, so we expect the ruling party, yes, and also the opposition parties to nominate their own.
What are the qualifications for one to become a presiding officer?
Well, I think we need to differentiate. You know, there's the Speaker and the First and Second Deputy Speaker. Okay, so you notice that from Article 82, Clause 2, it does stipulate what are the qualifications for one to be elected as Speaker. One has to be a Zambian citizen. Okay, so one should not have dual citizenship. Okay, so then that person must, of course, have been a grade 12. Then the person also should be, for Speaker, I'm stressing that point, should not be less than 35 years. Okay, so the minimum age is that person should be 35 years and above to be Speaker. Then when it comes to the two deputy speakers, of course, the First Deputy Speaker is the person nominated is not among the 156 plus the 8 nominated. So this person is nominated, is outside those elected or who are members of parliament. So that person needs to have the qualifications that an ordinary member of parliament needs to have. Of course, a Zambian citizen, at least a minimum of grade 12, 21 years, because that's what applies to a member of parliament. So that will be for the first deputy speaker, chosen or nominated from those outside the 156. But for the second deputy speaker, it has to be from amongst members of parliament. So this could be elected or nominated. So remember, there's no, once the president has nominated those 8, there's no difference in terms of status, in terms of the dignity. There's no difference between the elected and the nominated. So from amongst those, the elected and the nominated, one of them could become a second deputy speaker. So with of course, would be elected, you'd have been, of course, at least a minimum of 21 years, a grade 12 minimum, a Zambian citizen, and then the other qualifications that are mentioned. But of course, the other thing to stress is that for second and first deputy speaker, they should be from different party. So if the first deputy speaker is from party A, the next person should be from party B. So there should be a difference in political party, difference in sex. So we can't have first and second deputy from the same sex, no. So it should either be, they should be male and female. So that is what is expected to be.
There is a perception out there that for one to become a speaker should have a legal background. How true is that?
Well, maybe people have that perception from what has maybe some people like our former speaker was a judge of the High Court. But if you cast your mind back a percent, you remember that the first speaker after independence was Honorable Pillsbury Nyerenda. He was a teacher. Okay. After him in 1960, 69, 68, 69, we had Dr. Robinson Namoliato. He was not a lawyer. Okay. I would also remember from 1998 to 2011, we had Honorable Amusa Mwanawamba. Okay, he was not. He was I think he was a journalist. Okay, so of course the last two from 2011 to current, the speakers we've had of that legal background. But the Constitution does not provide that one has to be a speaker.
What is the significance of this position?
Well, the significance of this institution is, I think it's the place that the National Assembly holds in the governance of the country. Now, this institution...
No, we're talking about the position.
Yes, I'm giving a background. So this institution has a place in the governance of a nation. Okay, so it's an institution where people's representatives from all corners of the country, they are all meet here. So the position of a presiding officer becomes important because all those representatives need to have their voice heard. So they are representatives, so their voices need to be heard. So the significance of this position is that this is a person who is presiding over the business of a house with this onerous responsibility to ensure that the voice of the people through their representatives are heard. So it's important because it's somebody who has to allow from all corners of the country. So this person wants to ensure that there's order and there's fairness. Okay, so the business of the house is transacted in a very orderly manner, and it's also in a very fair way, so that we do not just have one voice. Okay, voices from just one quarter being heard. So it's somebody who has to give room, because at the end of the day, the house has to make a decision. And if we'll be making a decision based on voices from one quarter, then the decision that this house will be making, the National Assembly will be making, will not be really taking on board the views of all the corners of this nation. So it's important because this is a person who helps to ensure there's order and all the voices are heard.
Mr. Mwanga, as we come to the end of today's presentation of Voice of the People, what could be your concluding remarks regarding today's topic?
I think again want to encourage our people to follow what our Parliament TV does broadcast, and it's also important that people do take a deliberate make a deliberate effort to read about these positions, because sometimes where the discussions in public domain concerning the role of presiding officer, find that it's actually it's outside what the role of that position is. So I would encourage our viewers to take time to read. The National Assembly has produced a number of publications, so they are easy to read materials on the role and responsibilities of presiding officers.
Thank you so much for making appearance on today's presentation of Voice of the People, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Posen.
Today, we looked at the role of presiding officers, and my guest on today's presentation was Mr. Kawiwi Mubanga, who is Deputy Principal Clerk from the Research Department here at the National Assembly of Zambia. I hope he has helped you understand the role of these presiding officers that we have in the House. My name is Posen Tendovi. Till then, keep watching Parliament Television.
Good afternoon. You're watching Parliament Television. Business resumes in a few minutes from now. And just before the break on the floor of the House was Mr. Harry Gamboni, who is Kaloma Central Member of Parliament, debating a motion that has been moved by Lumezi MP, Mr. Munie Zulu, and seconded by Nalolo MP, Mr. Wamunyima Imanga. And the motion is titled, Abolish Position of District Commissioner, that this House urges the government to abolish the position of District Commissioner.
Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. Business cannot commence right now because the quorum is not yet constituted. Remember, it is a requirement that 1/3 of the total number of members of Parliament to be present for any business to be considered on the floor of the House. And when it was suspended, the House was considering a motion moved by Lumezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Munia Zulu, abolish a position of District Commissioner. On the floor of the House, it was Kaloma Central was debating.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Rumezi, that this House urges government to abolish the position of District Commissioner. And the Honorable Member for Kalomo Central was debating the motion. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now, I will define the roles of the DC. First, the mover of this motion said there was a duplication of duties between the council chairman, the mayor, and the DC. That I don't agree. And that the position of the DC was overlapping is irrelevant. Now, the council chairperson or the mayor does not address government officials. He's not obliged to that. The DC defined here, as defined, coordinates government and local authority programs in order to ensure that there are effective implementation and hence the development process in the district, interpreting government policies, correct understanding, and create public awareness. What if the council chairman who wins is of a different party? And there is a president who comes from a different party and has different policies. How do they work? The DC also deals with security issues in the district. These are very sensitive issues that are dealt with people who are entrusted by the president. So the DC in the district deals with the security issues. We have part of our country that are around the border. Shavonga, Chirundu, all these. The DC Shangombo plays a very important role of making sure that the security issues are handled and taken care of. Now, so to say that now the position of the DC is irrelevant is not true. I don't see the overlapping here. Because you want to compare to say who is bigger. When the DC goes in the district, he is first of all the head of the civil service. He heads all the civil service. He calls all the heads of department, including the mayor, to get reports in all the departments. So he does the coordination. And therefore, but the mayor or the DC cannot address all the ministries. No. In my district, of the Minister of Health, Minister of Agriculture, the one who is empowered to do this is the DC. Even in terms of transfers, the council secretary cannot transfer a civil servant. A mayor cannot recommend the transfer of the civil servant. It is the DC. If the DC gets a lot of complaints from people that service is not being done properly, he can recommend for a transfer. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I strongly say the position of the DC should remain. If you wash a pig today, few minutes from now, it will again be dead. And this is what other people call rebranding. You rebrand and you are back to your old ways. It's very important when you rebrand, you become newer than what you were. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful once again for allowing me to give a few comments on the motion that my colleague from Lumezi has moved regarding the position of District Commissioner. Mr. Speaker, I want to indicate to the House that under district administration, there's a position called District Administrative Officer. So if you go to Chipata District, you'll find an officer of government called District Administrative Officer. The role of the District Administrative Officer is basically what the DC is supposed to be doing. The District Administrative Officer, Mr. Speaker, is a position of a civil servant. It is not an appointee of the President, but a career civil servant who has risen through different functions until they reach the position of District Administrative Officer. I have started from that background, Mr. Speaker, in order to inform not only the public but also the House that if government wants to get work done through central government at a local level, they have a position called District Administrative Officer. Secondly, the argument we should have here, or the conversation we should have here, is a very frank conversation. And I'm calling it a very frank conversation because it should not be about who is seated on the left and who is seated on the right. I have a lot of colleagues that have worked in this position who have shared their thoughts on the functionality of this position. And Mr. Speaker, if you've read the details of the job description that one of the members referred to, the functions of government that have been devolved have not been devolved to the office of mayor, no. The devolution, which is a system of governance, defines which officers should submit reports to the council secretary, who is the town clerk. So if the council is having a committee meeting on a specific day, Mr. Speaker, what will happen is that the district agriculture officer, as an example, will come with a report, and in that report, the DACO will indicate we've distributed so much fertilizer. The DACO will indicate we have opened up the following farm blocks to allow our people to do farming. That's already a central government function at a local level. And that is the district agriculture officer as an example. Another example is the district education board secretary, Mr. Speaker. The district education board secretary, who we call the DEBS, is supposed to sit in a council committee meeting on education to simply report that the following schools have got the following enrollment. The following school has got the following challenges. That report is recorded. Mr. Speaker, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that currently, there's already an official document of government. And government, what I do know is that in terms of functionality, the Office of the Secretary to Cabinet has already communicated in various circulars. And I think it will be important moving forward, resources allowing, that a workshop needs to be organized on decentralization so that everyone is up to speed with the roles of different local functionalities, so that everyone is able to understand that there's already movement in terms of decentralization and what it intends to achieve. I have 3 minutes, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try to speak now to the office of the DC, what we are discussing today. Right now, there are 116 Zambians who've been employed as district commissioners. The frank conversation which we should all be aware of, and I think we are all aware, is the fact that these are appointees of the president in most cases for political reasons. That's a fact. Even in the old days, those who were appointed as DCs were appointed simply because during the by-election they put in resources, or during a by-election they committed time, or they've worked in the party structures for too long. That's the frank conversation we should have. And this is a fact. Go anywhere in history, time for MMD, time for PF, and where we are today. These were positions where you needed to reward people and you say, where do we take this individual? They've labored for the party. There will be good eyes for the party in the district. That's how these positions were allowed to continue. Now, if that is the fact which we are all aware of, what we should be discussing is, do we want the position of DC to remain for political expedience, or we want to strengthen the systems of decentralizing functions of government? That is the conversation we should have. So whatever happens to this motion when time comes to vote, I expect that government will go back, they'll sit and reflect, what do we want to achieve? Do we want to continue rewarding party officials with positions, or do we want to strengthen the principles of decentralization? If that is the conversation, I think that it will be important that we are all magnanimous and reflect on the importance of decentralization. So, Mr. Speaker, as I stand here reflecting on the motion that has been moved, I would want to urge government. We have a government in place. The government must recognize which policies it wants to implement and how those policies will be implemented. If decentralization, which was adopted in 2002, has to be fully implemented, I think it will be important that a very frank conversation does take place. And I believe that our Honour the Vice President, leader of government in Parliament, has taken note of the valid submissions that have been made. Voting is another issue. Whether this motion pulls through or not is besides the point. The point is we've had a conversation in Parliament. And the conversation is that we need to ensure that the substructures called the Ward Development Committee, we need to ensure that the substructures work with other structures of governance at a very local level in a very transparent manner. Mr. Speaker, I support the proposal that we abolish this position and we ensure that the office of the District Administrative Officer is allowed to perform the functions of the District Commissioner. I thank you.
Order. Honorable Chuya Ron, followed by Honorable Masewo, who never had a female voice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to add my voice on this motion raised by Honorable Member for Lumezi, urging the government to abolish the position of the district commissioner. Mr. Speaker, who is a district commissioner? My understanding is that the district commissioner is the link between the central government, which is headed by the principal, who is the president, and the district. The district commissioner, Mr. Speaker, superintends over the affairs of the central government. He is purely a civil servant, and as such, he superintends over district heads of government, starting with the District Joint Operations Committee, which is a security wing of the district. The district commissioner reports to the provincial permanent secretary, who is the supervisor, also appointed by the president. The district commissioner is not a politician. The district commissioner, I am stating this, you may question me, but I'm telling that the district commissioner is not a politician. You may be appointed from the political circle. The moment you are appointed as a district commissioner, you cease to be a political cadre or a politician. A district commissioner is in the district to serve all the political affiliations in the district. That is why the district commissioner heads the civil service and not the local authority. The district commissioner, to me, is very vital. Mr. Speaker, the only problem that we have is to define the roles of a district commissioner and that of the local authority, who is the council secretary or the mayor. I remember very well in 2018, Secretary to the Cabinet issued a memorandum defining clearly what were the roles of a district commissioner and that of the mayor, and it was clearly defined. Why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? Is because indeed we cannot do away with the district commissioner in the district. What we need to do is to keep on improving on the performance and the abilities of the district commissioner. I am saying this, in 2018, the then government felt it is well to send the district commissioners to a refresher course, because these district commissioners, their role actually is an oversight institution of the president. That is why if you go at the district commissioner's office, the first thing you will see is the label that is written Office of the President. And they are the conduit to the president. The only thing we need to do to harmonize the whole issue is to separate and make it clear what are the roles of a district commissioner and what are the roles of the mayor or the council secretary. I remember very well in 2018, the then government sent all district commissioners to school because they felt it was worth sending district commissioners because of so many omissions that they felt were being made. Mr. Speaker, we cannot do away with this institution. The only thing is that today, those who are saying we remove this institution, yesterday it was worthwhile for this institution to be there. And for those, I hope, who are here saying this institution should stay, should ensure that institution should stay even when it happens that they are not in the office. Mr. Speaker, I am saying this because I have been privileged to declare interest that at one time I served as district commissioner. And I know what it means to be in that office. And when the government sent us to school for refresher, yes, I served under Patriotic Front government then. When the government sent the district commissioners to school, because they realized that there were a lot of issues that we are not understanding. And this is what we need to do, not to completely delete or do away with the office of the district commissioner. We went to school, the government sponsored, which is more like refresher courses at Cavendish University. And I'm proud that out of the 116 district commissioners who were sent to school, who sat and wrote the exams, a serious exam, I was the best student from government. This is what we want to do. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, the office of the district commissioner should stay. The only thing that is there is we must harmonize. I have seen, Mr. Speaker, where district commissioner and council chairpersons and mayors, of course, do fight. but we just need to show them their lane, their respective lanes where they should stick. There are situations where ministers visit these districts. The first office that they should pay a courtesy call, I believe, is the district commissioner. But sometimes there are always squabbles and fighting between the two because of maybe standing out or want to be identified. So I would want to urge the new Dawn government that in as much as we want to maintain this office, please let us do what is right by ensuring that we streamline, we tell the district commissioners which role they are supposed to play. And we tell them that they are there to serve everyone, regardless of color, political affiliation, religion, because they represent the president, the Republican president. And we are aware that His Excellency the Republican president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, is the president for all Zambians. And as such, the district commissioner should be there to serve as such. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, yes, sometimes district commissioners overlaps even in the routes, in the lanes of members of parliament. This is the acrimony that I'm seeing. But I believe and know that the new Dawn government will work on those areas and make sure that whilst us members of parliament were here, we should not be worried that district commissioners aren't organizing our constituencies, but that they are doing their respective roles as stated in the office of the district commissioner. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chongwe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing the voice of women as well. I just thought I should add my voice on this very important debate, especially when I hear colleagues speak, in some cases even misleading the nation on this office. First of all, I want to say that the new Dawn government under President Hakainde Hichilema has made it very clear that this is a very orderly kind of government in terms of administration. And so when we talk about decentralization, first and foremost, this is an old piece of policy that successful governments have tried to implement and mostly have failed because of lacking political will. I think it's only this administration where a president from day one, he went and implemented part of decentralization without question because he truly believed it from his heart. And that is the story of the CDF. Under Ministry of Health, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have, in effect, we have decentralized some of our functions. If you look at the current statutory instrument, which is the Gazette Notice, where the President decides which functions will fall under Ministry of Health, which functions will fall under Agriculture, Education, and Ministry of Local Government, you will note that primary health care has actually been decentralized to the district councils. So we should always look at real things, instead of just debating and, misleading ourselves. I agree that this is a non-political issue. But in being honest, both sides must speak to what is factual. Factual in that it is only this administration, when it comes to political will, that have moved to implement decentralization. As I speak now, Mr. Speaker, I have already talked about health. As I'm speaking now, the functions of part of the functions and the important functions of health, that is running health clinics from the district going down, all these in effect the President has already endorsed and said, let them go to the councils. Now, what that means is that these functions will not only go as functions, because in the past, people kept saying, no, there is no capacity. There is no capacity at the district council. But this administration has said, no, we are not only taking functions, we are also taking the money which accompanies those functions. We are also going to take officers to go and place or implement some of those functions. That is truth in terms of actions. And I think both sides must say this president speaks what he walks the talk. The other point is to talk about the office of the district commissioner. That office is so important, especially if you are decentralizing genuine decentralization as I'm seeing it now. So look at me. We are sending the functions at the district council. That district council falls under Ministry of Local Government. And that district council is not answerable to the sector minister. At that case, or rather at that point, I'll need somebody from government, mainstream government, because we are going to have a council, local councils here, we are going to have central government. So we have local government and this central. So under central, at the district, we are going to have the district commissioner, and his functions shall be determined. And when you go to our manifesto, it does say that UPND in power will review and align the district commissioner's office, taking into account decentralization. That's what we have said. So this debate for us is neither here nor there, because we've already decided. So somebody in confusion can't come and tell us that, no, dissolve that office. That is confusion for us. Because even when we campaigned on the basis of what we are doing now. There's nothing we are doing which we did not tell the people, except that some of the things we have not yet implemented, because we can't do everything in 1 year or 2 years. It will take time. So even when we talk about implementing decentralization, we can't tomorrow decentralize everything. No. We are doing it in a phased fashion. Okay? Methodically. That's what we are doing. So let's not confuse ourselves. This administration is keeping district commissioner. This administration will align the functions of district commissioners as we decentralize functions to the council under the mayor and the elected councillors. And there are a few things that still need to be done even in the constitution. This constitution that we have, it was on the floor of this house where some of your members, and I must state, both on the right and the left, were not looking at the future. They were looking at themselves. This administration doesn't care about the right and the left. This president only cares about the Zambian people and what he promised the Zambian people. And that is how he will move. And this president has made this very clear. He has told us, colleagues, this is what we told the people, and anybody who is looking the other side, you will fall off. So do not think that you can come here and begin to confuse us. We know what we want to do. And the Zambian people must not listen to some of the debates which come here, which are meant to be political. I know that some of our colleagues, because they know how they abused district commissioners, they think we'll do the same. We've had by-elections. Which district commissioner did they see doing politics? None, except to do government functions in their respective districts. This administration, Mr. Speaker, is a genuine administration being led by a genuine man called Mr. Hakainde Chilema. So I just want to tell my colleagues, both on the right and the left, let us work together to implement this decentralization properly and not to start confusing ourselves with such motions. Otherwise, it will remain a piece of paper. I was part of this policy myself, and I know how much many governments have tried to decentralize. They failed. Why? Because of this kind of politics. The office of the district commissioner remains important if we are going to decentralize in a very methodical manner. Now, somebody said we must be honest. Yes, let's be honest. For us, we need a district commissioner who represents the president so that our policies are not being undermined. Mr. Speaker, you have seen even the way we work here. Sometimes people bring issues not because it is genuine, because they want to undermine you. They forget that we are one here, and we are here to do what? We are here to develop this nation. And therefore, it's not a question of saying, you said let's be honest. We are debating honestly here. You were using district commissioners, and you think we'll do the same. And some of you in your provinces, even now with the CDF, what are they doing? They're alienating other citizens from participating just because those citizens were supporters of UPND. So we don't want that. We need the district commissioner, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that Zambians are all saved. I thank you.
Order. Whoever wants to raise the point of order, I've got two gadgets where I'll be able to see. You must indicate in order to ensure that there's order in this house. I won't pick anyone who I can't see indicating here. Honorable member from Pika.
But madam was informing. Oh, it's not this one. Welcome. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for according me this opportunity to add the people of Mpika's voice on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, let me state from the onset that I support this motion, and I don't support it. I'm supporting this motion not because I'm having conflict with my DC, like some debaters want to portray the picture. I'm supporting this motion because it is not well provided for in our constitution. And actually, Mr. Speaker, it is a duplication of roles between the DC and the district administrative officer. Also, the head of the local authority, who is the council chairperson. Mr. Speaker, I was expecting that those on your right would actually give Honorable Munia Zulu accolades for reminding them of their promise on page 16 of their constitution. This is one of the reasons why they were voted for. The Zambian people were promised that the position of DC would be scrapped off. And this is what Honorable Munia Zulu has done. He deserves being recommended by those on your right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there have been arguments that no, we need the position of district commissioner for it to continue coordinating between government ministries. Mr. Speaker, this position has been in existence. It was there even in the past 10 years of the Patriotic Front. They are proud from those on your right when they were on the left against this position. It was very loud and clear, Mr. Speaker. And even right now, these positions, Mr. Speaker, must be given to professionals who are the DAOs. Mr. Speaker, those that hold the position of DCs, more especially now, are abusing these offices. That's why the Zambian people feel they do not want them because they are being abused by some of those holding these positions, like meddling in the political affairs, which they should leave it to politicians. Even our people, when they go to these offices, are being treated based on political lines. That's why the Zambian people are concerned now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those that you represent and I do represent. Mr. Speaker, also when you look at Article 152 of our Constitution, it is very clear on the role of the local authority and the council chairperson to administer the district. That means if, in our process of decentralization, Mr. Speaker, the powers of running the districts have to go to the council chairperson and the district authority. In this case, the position of the district commissioner becomes very irrelevant and a sheer waste of national resources. Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with a government
Honorable member, you can continue, but as regards to the point of order, I'm not picking anyone who's not indicating. Because if you don't have this gadget, you should be able to have an iPad. No, I have my iPad here. It's not malfunctional, it's working. The honorable member from Pika, you can continue.
Mr. Speaker, these appointments, the appointments of district commissioners,
allegedly made in accordance with the Article 174 of our Constitution, which is very vague, Mr. Speaker, and which is not supported. Mr. Speaker, am I protected?
Honorable member, you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I submit that this House urges government to abolish this position and elevate the position of the district administrative officer to perform those relevant functions that remain with the central government, and those that have gone to the office of the council chairperson remain so. The office of the district commissioner is actually a replica of the district chairperson of the ruling political party. Because they are actually those positions are given to people from the political party structures, and when they go there, they do not cease to be political animals. They continue being political, and that is what actually the Zambian people are against, because they would expect to find real civil servants in those offices. This is the reason why the taxpayers are saying we cannot continue paying for these people in those offices whilst they are performing duties of a political party. The duty of a district chairperson is what most of these district commissioners perform. The duty of a provincial chairperson is what most of these district commissioners perform. More especially, Mr. Speaker, during by-elections, they even remove number plates of GRZ vehicles. They start using them in campaigns. Mr. Speaker, in Luangwa, where I was, district commissioners from across the country were in Luangwa. In all the by-elections where have been district commissioners were there campaigning using government vehicles. Some even issuing fertilizer meant for the Ministry of Community Development. Some also issuing, social cash transfer in those areas where there are by-elections. This is what the Zambian people are against. This is what the taxpayers are against. Mr. Speaker, those on your right, this is what they campaigned against when they were in opposition. And Zambian people heard them loud and clear and voted for them. Now they are saying, oh, PF, oh, PF. I don't even know why the Zambian people changed the government, because those want to behave like PF. They want to behave like PF. They want to continue being like PF in power. The Zambian people changed government for a better alternative, and you are not being the better alternative. When we remind you that this is what the Zambian people voted against in the 2021 general elections, you say PF, PF this. Then tell the Zambian people that you want to be PF so that they remove you from power in 2026, like they did in 2021. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, yes, because you are admiring how PF was in power.
Order. Let's allow the member to debate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, let me echo the wishes of the Zambian people. The wishes of the Zambian people are that the district commissioner's position be abolished and replaced with the district administrative officer, and run those portfolio functions of the central government. Those that have gone to the council chairperson remain as they are. Those district district chairpersons, district IPSs for the ruling political party should go back to politics. We meet them on the ground as we do politics. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I thank you.
Order. I'll allow three debaters. The first one is the seconder, Honorable Member for Nalolo, followed by the Honorable Member for Chinsali. I'm just following the list that was given to me by the Chief Whip of the opposition party. The last one will be Honorable Member for Mazabuka, Honorable Minister of Local Government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to second this motion raised by the Honorable Member for Lumezi, an independent member of parliament. And as I second this motion, I'd like to be mindful that the people on my left and on your right have been referring to members on your left as PF. I am not PF, I am PNUP supporting this motion. Mr. Speaker, this motion is non-controversial, and I would like, on a lighter note, to say that anything with two heads is a monster. Human beings have one head. Mr. Speaker, I'll draw your attention to Article 152 of the Constitution. And it reads, a local authority shall, A, administer the district, B, oversee programs and projects in the district. As we are gathered and debating here, Zambia has two heads in a district. Two heads. And I was expecting the members on your right to give an example of a country in the SADC region or in the world that has two heads at a district. Because the presence of two people heading a district is a recipe for anarchy. And this that I'm quoting is the Constitution. And we have people saying the local authority does not administer a district. Where are they drawing that information? It's Article 152 of the Constitution. And it is fortified by the Local Government Act of 2019, Section 6, which gives the local government authority to administer the district. Today, Mr. Speaker, as we sit here, page 16 of the UPND manifesto says that once elected, they will integrate the office of DC with existing roles of the council chairperson and the district administrative officers. This is a manifesto of the ruling party. And they're in government today. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Finance is seated there, he is aware that previous budgets have had 50% of the budget wage bill, 40% of the budget debt servicing, 10% social sector spending. Now, in your 50% of the wage bill, you have 116 district commissioners who are doing duplicate roles. We are saying they are qualified. Where was the advert to employ these district commissioners? How are these district commissioners employed? Mr. Speaker, the New Dawn government inherited district commissioners and were elected on the premise, partly on the premise, to get rid of them. And today, we should debate here and say this is political. There's nothing political about this. What is the role of a district commissioner? I have not heard anyone quoting the civil service terms of reference on the duties of a district commissioner. And now I will quote them. And I will quote them. And you will know that there is a dual role. Mr. Speaker, the office of district commissioner has dual roles with the office of council chairperson. The role of a mayor or a council chairperson is to oversee effective human resource management and development in order to optimize utilization of human resources and enhance staff performance. While the DC's role is to manage effective utilization of human, material, and other resources in order to facilitate development goals. Additionally, the council chairperson's role is to oversee the provision of the public service in order to improve the well-being of the community, while the DC's role is to supervise the administration of government functions in order to facilitate coordinated development in the district. Mr. Speaker, we can clearly see that the roles of a DC and council chairperson overlap. This is not rocket science, it is a no-brainer. We have two offices from the executive. Number one, district administrative officer. From the executive, the civil servant appointed in the rank and file of the executive. Number two, you have a council secretary appointed in the rank and file of the executive. Today we should be told, no, the interests of the executive can only be seen by this. How? What informs that argument? When you are campaigning to say you will remove the position, what has changed today? Today, and I would like to put it on record, Mr. Speaker, confusion is to believe that your views have monopoly over others. The people on your left equally represent constituencies. It's not only the people on your right. And being mindful that we represent constituencies. When we speak, we are the voice of the people. We do not come here to represent our personal views. Therefore, we take great exception to be told that this is confusion. Confusion is having two heads at a district and justifying it. Mr. Speaker, in concluding my debate, I would like to unreservedly and apologetically state that the Office of DC is a waste of resources on the Treasury, and above all, unconstitutional, does not exist in the Constitution. We won the IMF bailout. The New Dawn government did a commendable job to seek an IMF bailout on the premise of physical discipline, on the premise of prudent management of resources. What is prudent about having an office whose office roles are done or are duplicated? What is prudent about extending political interference in the office of council chairman, and even the audacity, even the office of members of parliament, whose mandate is given by the people? And I have someone here saying, no, the DCs, because are appointed by the president, must have an overriding law on elected individuals. There is no one who should have an overriding law of an elected person. Because decentralization and devolution of powers, for those of you who've researched, there is no appointment at a decentralized and a devolved system of government. But if today we want to have a rewritten, a new theory of decentralization, a new one by the professors, that an appointed person is part of a decentralized system, oh my goodness. Mr. Speaker, I would like to submit that this office should be developed. It is irrelevant. It is a waste of taxpayers' money. But come rain, come sunshine, there is need that we have, as my honorable member from Kafisa said, an honest conversation. We must not fear. Let us sit at the table of ideas. Politics is about exchanging ideas. You will not have one person with a monopoly of ideas. Receive ideas. Should emotion on your left be confusion? Emotion on your right be genius? No, no, no. If that is the way of extending an olive branch of working together, then so be it. We cannot accept a situation where waste of taxpayers' money is being justified. And we agree with your manifesto that this position must be abolished. I submit.
Order. Honorable Member for Chinsari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to debate this motion on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I think that the mover of the motion may have been misunderstood by the Member of Parliament who was saying that he brought a motion to the House that is mischievous. Mr. Speaker, I don't see any mischievousness in this motion. Reason being, I think that...
Order. There's a lot of whispering in this House. Let's ensure that there's order. Those of you who want to talk, you can always talk from outside. Or else I'll send out some members. Honorable Member, you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I think is that the mover of the motion moved this motion with the intention of helping the UPND government to achieve its aspirations. Mr. Speaker, in 2012, a lot of members have spoken to the fact that the UPND moved a motion in this House where they urged this government to abolish the position of the district commissioners, which the Patriotic Front government rejected before the constitution was changed. And also, even the Minister of Health spoke to the fact that in the manifesto of UPND,
there is a statement to suggest that the UPND intend, that is the manifesto from 2021 to 2026, the UPND intends to review and align the roles of the district commissioners with the functions of the town clerks and council secretaries. Mr. I do understand, even though the minister made a mistake, she said that they are going to align with the decentralization, which their manifesto does not state. No, it doesn't state that. Well, no problem, it can be checked. Mr. Speaker, I was meant to believe that maybe the reason why the UPND manifesto was written in this way, they wanted to make sure that they comply with what the Constitution states. I want to add to what the mover of the motion stated. When you read Article 152 of the Constitution, Section Sub-Article 1 of 152 states that a local authority shall administer the district, that is in A. In B, it states that oversee programs and projects in the district. C, make bylaws and perform other prescribed functions. When you go to Sub-Article 2, it states that the national government and the provincial administration shall not interfere with or compromise a local authority's ability or right to perform its functions. When you look at this, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that the existence of the office of the district commissioner may be perceived to contradict the dictation of the Constitution under 152 sub-article 2. And it is on that premise that the mover of the motion thought that it was wise to urge the government to abolish, or the UPND government to abolish the office of the district commissioner. What I think the members of the executive can do, they have an opportunity to explain this. The minister, I stated that she spoke to how their manifesto suggests that they are going to align and review the functions of the district commissioner with those of the town clerks and council secretaries. She should have stated how far they have gone with that and what they are going to do, or what they plan to do in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years during the time they will be in office, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we expect to hear in an event that they are not of the view to abolish this office. That is what we expect to hear from my big brother, the Honorable Minister of Local Government, as he is going to give his debate after me. Mr. Speaker, with these few remarks, I wish to state that I support the motion to abolish the office of the district commissioner. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the people who are agitating for the abolishment of this particular office are clear for you to see. And for the mover, I want to thank you for bringing this motion. For the seconder, I thank you too. But don't drown in the noise. Do not get influence that may not work for you. Because your backers, as you can see from the ferocious debate, are pushing for what they themselves failed to do. That is the beginning point. They are pushing for something that they failed to do. And my shock really lies on the Honorable Member of Parliament for Shiwangandu, who was sitting where I'm sitting today, who had an opportunity to do what he was propounding today. Quickly, the President, under Article 90 of the Constitution, don't worry, I don't get distracted easily. Give him the point of order.
Honorable Minister, let's refrain from debating ourselves as we are here. I think if we are trying to refer to the previous occupant of the office, it's better to refer is the official capacity that he occupied. Honorable
Thank
Minister
you,
can
Mr.
continue.
Speaker. I appreciate. He's a friend of mine, and where he's wrong, I must clearly tell him that he missed the ship a long time ago. He was in the driving seat. He was a coxswain. He did not do what he's preaching today to do. Quickly, Mr. Speaker, under the executive authority of the Constitution, under
Honorable
Part 7,
Member for Matero, may you take your seat. If you want to raise on a point of order, you indicate. Or else, no, I can't see here. Yes. Honorable Minister, you can continue. The IT department, I think, try to see the iPad.
it is good to, they are doing well to learn how to be in, Mr. Speaker, they are doing well to learn how to be in opposition. But let them watch us do what they failed to do, is my headline message here. Under Article 91(2) of the Republic of Zambia, please refer to it. It gives the president,
I'll send you out,
it gives the president sufficient executive power to establish offices in this constitution. Number 2, they kept referring to Article 52. Please, get your book. It's one book, this same one. Read it together with Article 152. It will show you clearly the dichotomy of the function of central government, the function of local government, and how there's a safety catch for the two not to interfere with one another. The mover and the seconder kept saying no one has given a definition of the role, the duties of the district commissioner. Let me read it for you, my dear friend. The role is coordinating government and local authority programs in order to ensure their effective implementation and enhancement of the development process in a district, interpreting government policy programs in order to ensure correct understanding and create public awareness. Now, let's stop right there. That is the dichotomy, the difference. Mr. Speaker, do you imagine in your wildest dream a member of PF, these ones here, going to explain government policy by UPND? The example that I'll give, Mr. Speaker, is the expansion and extension of the Constituent Development Fund. A remarkable move that government did. None of them has produced a positive word as to how it works. And borrowing from what the Minister of Health said, in many cases, they are sidelining whoever campaigned for for UPND, from the World Development Committees, and sometimes you may wonder, why is this CDF not as fast as it should be? It is because the election of the WDCs was extremely acrimonious, to an extent where some of the jurisdictions put office bearers.
Honorable Minister, there's a point of order by Honorable Member for Shingawangando.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I reluctantly rise on this very serious point of order, citing standing orders 65.
Give him chance. You can go ahead, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I must put it on record that yes, indeed, I served as Minister of Local Government and Housing before 2016, before this constitution we are referring to was enacted into law to align the governance structures to the decentralization policy. Mr. Speaker, we're expecting the Honorable Minister in all manner. If there's one who is supposed to be non-political, it's him, because now we expect him to give the policy direction of this decentralization policy we are talking about. I don't think the argument of blame game here will help anyone. He is supposed to give a policy directive He's sitting next to the former Minister of Local Government.
Honorable Member for Shuangandu, when...
Is in order to insinuate, sir.
When raising on the point of order, you have to cite which standing...
I've already cited the standing orders.
Which
if you are paying attention to me, sir.
Standing order number what?
Number 65. Okay. That the debate must be factual and verifiable. And I started by acknowledging that I was Minister for Local Government.
Yes, I heard
before this constitution we are talking about was enacted. And if he thinks I failed, I want him to succeed. That's the whole essence, Mr. Speaker, of government. Government is a going concern.
But you are debating, say what has been breached. Yes, you managed to cite the standing orders, and then also quote what...
Mr. Speaker, is the Honourable Minister in order to abdicate his duty to state the policy direction insofar as decentralization, implementation of decentralization policy is concerned, and opt to start making insinuations that we, members of parliament here, have not acknowledged CDF when he has been approving the projects that we forwarded to his office. And secondly, we don't look at the, I don't know when MP who looks at who is who in terms of political affiliation insofar as implementing programs in the constituency is concerned, is in order to be the one taking that route of debate when he's supposed to be representative of all the honorable members of parliament. I seek your serious guidance, including you, sir.
Thank you. I think if I heard the minister correctly, what the minister was trying to say is just trying to contribute to the motion on the floor of the House. As such, he's trying to re-emphasize the point that the developmental agenda of this government is premised on CDF. And as such, he was trying to say that the DC is there to ensure that the message and the CDF is properly implemented without malice. I think that's what I heard. May the Honorable Minister continue?
Mr. Speaker, what you are experiencing here